The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a Friday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Running Point presented Monday through Friday from noon until 3 o'clock, courtesy of the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Kids, if you're in the market for a brand new or slightly used automobile, you definitely want to check out the good folks at Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. They got a fantastic sales department, a terrific finance department, and a great service department. And let's be honest, you need all three to have a phenomenal dealership, and that's exactly what Greenwood Chevrolet has. So if you are in the market for a new or slightly used automobile, you definitely need to check out Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Youngstown. All right, plenty of things going on in the world of sports. We will obviously be talking about some high school hoops tonight, and we'll certainly get into that conversation. We will hear from Brian Tolnar. Yeah, I know it's early January, and golf is the last thing on everyone's mind around these parts, but the PGA is starting up the calendar 2021 PGA season. They're in Hawaii. Jason Kokrak is there. He shot a 2-under in the first round. He is, last I saw, he was 6 shots back. Somebody shot 8 under in the first round. So we will catch up with Brian Tolnar. We'll get the latest on what's going on at Mill Creek. I mean, look, it's the off season. Nobody's golfing anytime soon. Not in this kind of weather. Nobody's golfing anytime soon. But it's never too early to talk about some of the potential things that could be shaken this spring when we get warmer weather and everyone starts getting the golf clubs out and getting going. So we'll certainly catch up with Brian Tolnar at 1 o'clock. We will definitely be talking high school hoops, as I mentioned. We're also going to be continuing to talk a little bit about the deal yesterday. And I got to be honest with you. I wasn't stunned at all. Nobody should have been stunned by this trade yesterday. But yesterday I was talking about the guys that they got back and the fact that the Indians did not get enough back short term. They're gambling on the long term. And everything is a gamble, especially when you're talking about prospects, and especially when you did not have a minor league baseball season last year. And the two kids in particular that they picked up, neither one of them played in 2020 because, like I said, minor league baseball, you didn't have minor league baseball in 2020. So it's a gamble. So I was a little disappointed with the fact that the Indians did not get enough short term. And they didn't. Listen, they didn't get enough short term. There's no two ways about it. And then it occurred to me, they're not really interested in short term per se. This is a team that's going to be interested in long term. This is a team that is clearly interested right now in having a payroll of very low means. Now, I don't know what this is going to mean for trying to get people into the stadium. Now, there are conspiracy theories going around that Well, the television contract ends at the end of the 2022 season, and the lease is up at the end of the 2023 season, and maybe this is a shadow of things to come, that the Dolans want to leave Cleveland and they want to move the team elsewhere. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. I'm just not. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. Could it happen? Who knows? Anything can happen. Hell, the Browns left in '95. The Browns said adios and left town. So anything can happen. This is a franchise, and the Indians have been around since 1901. I can't imagine they would do that. But like I said, anything can happen. After the show was over, the inner baseball guy in me. And it's still around. Look, it's been in my blood my whole life, and I was blessed to be in the business for a while. So I made some phone calls, and then I started grabbing some scouting reports, and then I started talking to some people, and then you form some opinions. You get some people to talk a little bit about the guys that they picked up. Let me tell you. And again, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this and say the Indians got the better end of the deal. I'm not gonna say that. But I will say this: potentially, and this is the ugly word that is used in Major League Baseball and by scouts and whatnot. Potentially, the Indians have robbed the New York Mets. Potentially, they've robbed the Mets. Long term, not short term. Short term, no. This is a deal that's one-sided short term. Long term, the Indians have potential to have robbed the New York Mets. Robbed them blind. Now, that's potentially. Whether that happens, it remains to be seen. The two kids in question that they picked up did a little bit of investigating in the two kids that have been on the Major League roster, Ahmed Rosario and Andres Jimenez. They're both shortstops by trade. Now, Jimenez can play second base, and it would appear that could be the move. Now, Rosario can also play third base. Now, this is an interesting little thing that the Indians have here. Because, as everyone knows, Jose Ramirez's natural position is second base. Now, Jose Ramirez is the last guy of the 2016 Indians World Series team that everyone can look back upon. And by the way, even though we're coming up on 5 years since the Indians last went to the World Series, Jesus, it feels like a lifetime ago now, because the Indians, whether they want to admit it or not, they are rebuilding, okay? But here's the great thing about this deal. If you wanted to put Ramirez back into second base and say, okay, Ahmad Rosario, you're over at third base, and Andres Jimenez, you're now going to be the shortstop, you can do that. If you want to sit back and go, hey, Nolan Jones, you're our guy at third base, Ramirez, get over to second base, and Ahmad Rosario, you and Jimenez are going to battle it out for the shortstop job, and the other guy is going to start the season in AAA Columbus, you can do that too. And let's not forget about Tyler Freeman in all of this. Tyler Freeman is on the fast track to make a potential splash in about 2020, late 2022, 2023. The Indians are absolutely loaded up the middle with prospects. Now, the bad thing with prospects, not all of them work out. The two guys that everyone knows about, Ahmad Rosario and Andres Jimenez, were at one point in time number one prospects for the Mets organization. Ahmad Rosario was the number one prospect 4 years ago, and Andres Jimenez was the number one prospect in 2018 and 2019. Both of these guys could be pretty decent players. Now, I don't think either one of them are going to be in Lindor's class in terms of hitting the ball, but both of these guys could be in his class defensively. Jimenez could be better than Lindor defensively, and a little more valuable because he can steal some bases, and he's got a really good eye at the plate. Again, potentially. The two kids that we really haven't seen per se, Josh Wolf and Isaiah Greene. Wolf was selected in 2019, second-round pick. He has a fastball in the mid-90s. He has a really, really good curveball and a pedestrian changeup. So right now, scouts, the people that I've spoken to, said he has 2+ pitches and the changeup he's been working on. I also caught wind that Wolf has been developing a slider in the offseason. This kid has an opportunity to be a top 2, top 3 type starter in Major League Baseball. The good news for him is he is going to an organization that breeds pitching out the wazoo. You can expect Wolf to be a pretty damn good starting pitcher if he reaches his potential. And again, that's an ugly word, but if he reaches his potential, Josh Wolf could be a pretty damn good pitcher in Major League Baseball. Now, I don't think he's going to be an ace, but I think he could be a 2, a solid 2, a really, really good 3, but a solid 2. So that's not bad. That's not bad. 2 former top prospects in an organization and a guy that has the ability to be a top 2-ish type of pitcher in a rotation. That's not bad. And then we get to Isaiah Greene. Isaiah Greene was selected in the second round of this past year's draft. Isaiah Greene, much like Josh Wolf, both of these kids were drafted out of high school. Isaiah Greene can fly. I mean to tell you, this kid has speed, and more speed. And from what I understand, people have been telling me this kid can pick it in center field. He is an unbelievably gifted defensive center fielder. Problem is he is raw as the summer day is long. And it's going to take a while for him to get going. But I've been told kid's lean, about 6'3", $170-ish, somewhere in that vicinity. He's long, he's lean. He is able to hit the ball pretty well. But again, he's raw. He's got a ton of speed. He can play some solid defense, good arm. He's not going to be around for a while. It's long term, okay. This could be interesting. Long term, the Indians could have robbed the Mets blind. Long term. The problem is the word "could" is in there. There are no guarantees here, and that's why this deal is incredibly risky for the Indians. Now, having said that, here's the solace that Indians fans should probably hang on to. This organization has done a damn good job of evaluating talent and getting the best out of their talent. So while short-term, this is a terrible deal for the Indians, short-term, it was never about short-term. It's about long-term. And I understand people are going to be like, well, I don't care about long-term. You guys just traded away the face of the franchise. I don't ever want to go see a game again. Well, hell, it's not like you guys were seeing games anyway to begin with. The team averaged 93 wins a year for 2013 to 2019. You're bottom third in the attendance. None of you people showed up anyway, so that threat goes, seriously, it's, come on, stop with that. And I hear these people like, well, we attend games when the Indians were good. Bullshit. You didn't attend games when the Indians were good. Jesus, God. The team went to the World Series in 2016. You were 28th in the league in attendance. Shut the hell up with that crap. Long term, I think they're going to be okay. But short term, yeah, it sucks. Oh, God, it sucks. All right, last night, had an opportunity to watch McDonald and Western Reserve. This was a rematch of the district finals. Now, clearly, McDonald hadn't played basketball all year long because of the fact of COVID and whatnot. And Western Reserve, they've been playing, but it is what it is. McDonald won the game 49-42. I didn't think either team played exceptionally well, but it was an entertaining game, if that makes any sense. It was back and forth. And like I said, I didn't think either team played exceptionally well. It's early in the season, even though it's early January. It's early in the season in that McDonald hasn't played a lot of games. Western Reserve, they lost some games due to COVID. So, let me see the rematch later in the season. I think both teams have unbelievable ability, but last night's game was sloppy on both ends. But having said that, it's an entertaining game. I mean, it was a really entertaining game. Molly Howard, 26 points. Sofia Constantino had 11. Danielle Vuletic with 14 points to lead Western Reserve. Like I said, entertaining game. McDonald wins the first game. They'll get the rematch later in the season. All right, let's go to Tony real quick. Tony, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's going on, Tony?
Hi, Ron. Talking about this trade, and I haven't really studied it that well, but you mentioned a pitcher that throws mid-90s and has a plus fastball. That typically isn't the combination, right? It's fastball slider, right?
Yeah, normally, well, I mean, you could throw fastball curveball, and that's been around for a little while. But Josh Wolf developed his curveball first. And now I've heard some whispers that Wolf is developing a slider to go along with a curveball. Now he already has a really good fastball. This kid, when he came out of high school, he was only throwing 91, 92 and topping out.
How old is he?
20.
So he may not even be fully grown yet.
Oh no, God no. He's not. He's definitely not. He's 20. And Isaiah Greene is 19. So, I mean, neither one of these kids are fully grown yet. And like I said, Wolf was coming out of high school. He was throwing low 90s. Well, he's now ticked it up to the mid 90s, 94 to 96, topping out at 97. So that's a whole lot better. The scouts, from what I was told, they say he has a plus fastball and his curveball is his best pitch. So 2+ pitches, which is pretty impressive. You get a third plus pitch, and now you're talking definite top half major league rotation.
The curve is a lot harder on the arm than the slider, right?
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a little harder on the elbow than the slider, but again, if both pitches are thrown properly and they're not, you're not throwing it all the time.
Well, he's only 20. Let's send him out for his Tommy John right now and then bring him back.
No, God, no! Please, no. Yeah, I love when people say that. Oh, you should probably just go get the Tommy John. He'll come back throwing harder. Yeah, no, that doesn't work that way. I mean, sometimes it does.
I'm Lindor. We love Lindor. We developed Lindor. We love Lindor. But I loved Omar Vizquel more than I thought I would ever love another shortstop. So I thought Lindor was a once-in-a-lifetime shortstop. The only shortstop at that level that I would see at the Cleveland Indians, and Lindor matched him easily.
Yeah, so, I think Lindor was better offensively, but he wasn't even remotely close to Vizquel defensively.
In totality, and I think they brought the same energy and love and passion for the game.
Absolutely.
On that aspect, they were comparable. And one traded some offense for defense. They traded offense for defense, and in the end, neither one of them embarrassed you ever.
No, it's now Vizquel has some problems that he's going to have to deal with now. Some ugly stories came out about 3 weeks ago regarding him, and he'll have to deal with those stories, and I'm sure that he will.
I don't even want to hear him, my friend. He's been gone for years,
exactly. And hopefully these stories don't prevent him going to Cooperstown, but they're disturbing to say the least. But he was much better than Lindor was defensively, but Lindor was so much better than Vizquel offensively, and both guys were terrific in the clubhouse, and both guys did an exceptional job at their position. But the cold reality, and people don't want to hear this. Major League Baseball, just like any other sport, is a business. The owners aren't there just to sit back and go, well, we're going to give this guy $300 million, and I know I'm going to wind up losing my shirt over this, but I'm just gonna do this because I want this guy around. No, I mean they're running
to the losing your shirt point too. This may be another COVID season. We don't know how it's going to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Out.
It's unfortunate.
And Cleveland's a small market, and affording this guy and then trying to move him, if you don't play a first half of a season, is going to be impossible. So I think their ability to evaluate pitchers and the current atmosphere, I trust in those guys up there.
Yeah, and I think that they had no intentions of making a deal for the short term. They're not going to say that they're rebuilding because they don't want to alienate everybody else. But let's be honest, Tony, they're rebuilding, and you can have.
You got a juggernaut potentially in Chicago right now.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And listen, you can sit back and say, well, we've got this unbelievable pitching staff. Okay, you do, no question about that. And you're going to need that unbelievable pitching staff because your offense isn't going to score many runs this year. So they're rebuilding. Now, it's not going to be a total rebuild because of the fact they have an unbelievable pitching staff, but it's clearly going to be a rebuild, and they're going to be nowhere near as good as Chicago, nowhere near as good as Minnesota. They might be able to sneak past Detroit and Chicago only because of this pitching, but obviously, this team is nowhere near the two teams that I just mentioned in the division.
And maybe that's a good reason. If you have to change your name eventually, you do it. You take all your lumps at one time, and then maybe you bring the new name on. This is the new Cleveland baseball team, and it corresponds with a resurgence. And I don't know what their plans are, but COVID's playing big in on this. Lindor, we could have maybe moved him last year, got a lot more for him, but.
Well,
watching the development of players. You're a baseball guy. Watching the development of players and anticipation, it has to just trip your trigger.
Well, listen, I'm looking forward to seeing the progression of the two kids that. All of them are kids, but Jimenez and Rosario are both going to be major leaguers. And I would imagine that one is going to be playing shortstop, the other is going to be playing either third base or second base. They're both going to be on the major league roster.
And Nolan Jones, let's talk about the former Niles kids. This Nolan Jones, he's a good kid. He's nice. He's the kind of person you want your kid to see. The shortstop over there, who came out of nowhere, the little guy, the shortstop.
Yeah, Tyler Freeman.
Oh, my gosh, and it was funny to see him, and I hate to always bring my kid in, but to see him and my kid interact they were talking about Fortnite. And I'm like, really? This kid's interacting with my kid? But my kid was maybe 12 or 11 at the time.
Yeah.
And Freeman was 18.
Yeah.
It's like a big brother, and they could speaking the same language.
Yeah. Well, and then you add some of the kids that they picked up in the deal with the Clevenger to the Padres. Look, and I know people don't want to hear, minor league talent because, I think a lot of folks are more interested in the major league club, and I get that. I understand that. But I'm going to tell you right now, between Gabriel Arias, Tyler Freeman, the two kids that we picked up yesterday, and Rosario and Jimenez, the Cleveland Indians are absolutely loaded up the middle at second and at short. They are absolutely loaded. Now, what does that mean? It means they're probably going to be dealing one or two of these guys when the time comes for this team to get back into contention. And I would contend, pun intended, by the way, I would contend that this team is going to be back in contention a lot quicker based upon the fact that they have and still have a very elite starting rotation.
You always lean on pitching.
Absolutely. And look, this is one of the things that I'm pretty fired up about with Josh Wolf is he's going to an organization that has done an incredible job of developing pitching. Now, I haven't seen this kid. I have seen Tristan McKenzie pitch. I've seen Bieber pitch. I've seen the rest of the guys that have pitched. I have seen Sam Henkes, who is supposed to be one of the big Indians pitching prospects. I've seen these guys pitch. If they can get Josh Wolf anywhere close to the guys that I just mentioned, the Indians are going to be really, really excited about this kid.
Do they have McKenzie over 170 pounds yet?
Oh, I'm sure they're probably feeding him Big Macs or putting it in an IV. I just hope he looks, he's 6'5", and he's so damn thin. He looks like Pedro Martinez, only 4 or 5 inches taller than Pedro, and he throws about as hard as Martinez did. He doesn't have the same badass demeanor, though. McKenzie doesn't throw. And I don't want to say Pedro ever threw at anybody. He threw in a general direction that was very close to a person's body part. But I don't want to flat out say that Pedro ever threw at anyone. He knew what he was doing, but that nasty demeanor of Martinez is the one thing that's missing from Tristan McKenzie's DNA.
Hey, a little comment on the Browns-Steelers game. And since I announced that I had to pull for the Steelers, and this is to our friend Ron, and I love Ron, I've heard from Steelers fans, and the Browns fans cannot believe the nasty, mean things that the Steelers fans say about the Browns. I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it when I heard it.
I'd say it's your typical rivalry.
I don't know if you Browns fans want to defend yourself, but whatever.
Yeah, it's a typical rivalry. Everyone talks a lot of garbage. Look,
I'm not trying to stir anything up here either. Okay?
No, not at all. You'd never do anything like that, Tony. No. As I see this little wooden spoon, no doubt that grandmother probably hit you with growing up, because I know mine did. You probably have the wooden spoon in hand, Kool-Aid in hand, and you got the wooden spoon in the little pitcher, and you're doing one of these numbers. They're doing a little stirring of the Kool-Aid.
Hey, I feel so bad for the Bills too, because I'm unless he can come off the gurney like Willis Reed did in the playoffs, I'm really worried about the Bills because I don't think Stephon Diggs is going to be able to play. I think he's really, really, really hurt.
Yesterday I saw that both of these kids took part, when the media was there, they took part in stretching. And at the end of practice, they said practice was limited.
You're talking about the other receiver, too, by the way.
Yeah, Beasley, who has a knee injury.
Right. And I told you 2 weeks. I told you 2 weeks on him. He'll miss this week.
It wouldn't surprise me if both of those guys missed Saturday. And I will say this with flat-out honesty. I am not really feeling good about Saturday's game against Indianapolis.
No,
I'm
and that's
not.
Probably the way they want you and the Colts to feel.
And I hope I'm
Beasley
wrong.
Will be here this week, but Beasley won't be here this week. But I'm sure that Stephon Diggs.
I hope he plays. I hope he plays. Listen, with Diggs, it's still going to be a tough game. Without Diggs, it is really, really going to be a tough game. It's Indianapolis. They got nothing to lose, and I just love Jonathan Taylor's game, and the fact that he can run right behind Quentin Nelson and probably get 5 or 6 yards because Quentin Nelson is that good of an offensive lineman. I actually feel sorry for the defensive tackles that are going to have to deal with him all game long because that's going to be interesting to say the least.
You have Phillips, you have Oliver in there. Okay, Oliver, it's time to step up.
Yeah, it's time for him to grow up.
I think he's been doing that recently.
Yeah, it's time for a lot of those guys to step up and let's show us what you got. And the good thing is, and the Bills' defense have been a lot better in the last 10 weeks. But again, this game concerns me, and I said it when the pairings came out. This game concerns me. Indianapolis has a really good defense. They got a fantastic running game now, and their offensive line is good. And those are 3 things that a playoff caliber team needs if they want to have a deep run in the postseason. And look,
you know what I say to that you're concerned, and I hope the Bills are concerned. Good.
Oh yeah, let's look, and you should be concerned. I mean, it's be a good game.
Play loose, have fun, but don't be arrogant.
No, well, I mean, listen. Yesterday, I saw somebody sent me a tweet of these guys dancing around to MC Hammer's song "Can't Touch This," and I was just fun. Yeah, and I was just like, okay, yeah, these guys are having fun. They're loose. They're happy-go-lucky guys, and that's cool. I mean, it's get past Indianapolis and worry about Pittsburgh or whoever comes out of that game. And by the way, speaking of, the Browns practice facilities are still closed. The Browns have not practiced at all this week. They are,
but the Browns fans have said that they really don't need practice.
Well, that's they practice as the Mexican one said in the Sierra Madre flick. Practice. We don't need no stinking practice. It's just come on.
I love that reference. But what in the wide world of sports? Do that one for me.
Oh, the from Blazing Saddles. Oh. What in the wide world of sports is going on here? Yeah. What was that guy's name? Oh, shoot.
I don't remember. It'll come to you. But, Ron, I'm just joking. I will be back as a Browns fan. And I just there was a period there that I heard things from Browns fans and Browns reporters that I just couldn't align myself with. So I'll be back as a Browns fan, but I really love Josh Allen, this fun team right now.
No, it's a good team. It's a good story, and hopefully the story goes another 4 or 5 weeks. That would be nice.
Hoping it's epic, right? An epic tale.
Well, listen, it's just get a win this week and live for next week, and hopefully they do that.
Hope this isn't the chapter, but hope this is just a chapter, not just a short story, right?
Well, listen, the last time the Bills won a playoff game, you got to go back to 1995. So late December 1995.
When's the last time they won 13 games?
93, 92, 93,
yeah.
somewhere around there.
So these are precedents till they're no longer precedents anymore.
Oh, no, exactly. I mean, look, I guess I'm more nervous for the fact that Buffalo hasn't won a playoff game in a quarter of a century, so let's see what these guys can do. If they get past Indianapolis, I think that this team has the ability to make a long run. But it's a week by week process. I'm not going to work ahead in any way, shape, or form, because this Indianapolis team is solid. And even if they were playing any other team in the AFC, it would still be the same thing. I'm not looking ahead, because you look ahead in the postseason, that's when you get caught.
This is the Bills, and this is the Bills. So let's get back to let's let you have the Browns and the Steelers, the two more local teams. It is the last show before their game, and they have a lot to work out between the.
Well, I mean, Cleveland hasn't even practiced.
It is horrible what they're saying about each other. So
yeah,
I'll leave it at that.
Oh boy, there's the wooden spoon again. All right, Tony, I appreciate it. See ya. 330-886-0813. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. Yeah, last I heard, and this was about 10 minutes before we went on the air, Browns practice facilities are closed. They've been closed all week. Now the test results. One player tested positive, and that one player turned out to be one of the starting safeties for the Browns is now out for the game on Sunday, but they haven't practiced all week. It's amazing to me that the National Football League hasn't really stepped in and said anything about this yet. I don't know if they're going to, but they haven't practiced all week. The facilities, as of 11:50 this morning, they were closed. They're hoping that they can open the facilities this afternoon. If that's the case, then they would practice this afternoon, practice on Saturday, play the game on Sunday. We'll see what happens. Let's go to Emmanuel. Emmanuel, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's going on?
How you doing, my brother?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
Well, I've been keeping my powder dry, listen to everybody all this week before I, decide how I'm going to come out with this, right? Now, as far as people, for some reason, I'm seeing Allen Iverson, in front of a microphone saying practice.
Yeah.
Man, we talking about practice.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I was waiting for someone to do that. We're just talking about practice.
Come on, man.
Not a game, not a game, but practice.
As far as the Steelers calling Browns names, only thing I've said to them, whenever somebody start talking trash or whatever, I just say, listen, last weekend was the rehearsal. This weekend is the wedding.
There you go.
And so we're going to find out what's up.
There you go.
Now, the things I hear you talking about the Indians, and the young team. Can you help me? Are we going to see any of these people playing with the Scrappers, or what's the connection with the Scrappers? Go ahead.
Yeah, the Scrappers and their affiliation with the Indians is over with. That's not going to happen because Major League Baseball has decided that minor league baseball should only consist of low A, high A, double A, and triple A. So the affiliation with the Indians is no longer there. What the Scrappers are going to do, they, along with 5 other teams, 4 of those teams were 3 of those teams were New York Penn League teams. 1 team was in the South Atlantic League, and the other team was in the Double A Eastern League. They're all going to be part of the brand new Major League Baseball Draft League, and this is going to entail invitation-only players from college and high school, draft-eligible players.
Major League Baseball?
Yeah, Major League Baseball and 1 or 2 scouting services are going to take part in inviting these draft-eligible kids who are interested in improving their draft stock. The season would start on June the 1st and would conclude to the end of July, early August. Now, this is the interesting part, Emmanuel. The draft itself is going to be taking place All-Star Week, Major League Baseball All-Star Week in mid-July. So depending on how fast these kids sign, this league could be getting a lot of replacement players for the kids that wind up signing and going with their team that drafted them. So the beginning part of this is going to be really cool. The end part of this, questionable, because a lot of kids may leave this league and go to their respective major league organizations. But, the league itself should be fun.
So you're saying that all the players that we're going to be seeing are going to be free agents. Once they sign a contract, they have to go?
All of these kids are going to be draft-eligible kids that are going to be essentially playing in this league to improve their draft status, hoping to become first, second-round draft picks so they can get all kinds of money in bonuses when a guy signs a contract. So the league itself, I think the league is going to be even better talent-wise than the New York Penn League was. So I think that the fans are going to see a better brand of baseball. It's just you don't know where these kids are going to wind up because none of these kids will have been drafted yet. So you could be looking at a future Cleveland Indians or Pittsburgh Pirate or New York Yankee or name any other major league organization. You could be looking at a future draft choice, a future draft pick of your favorite team in a Scrappers uniform this year, which kind of make things interesting.
Yeah, and another thing too, I haven't did it in a while, but I have to give a shout out to YSU's men's basketball coach. I've been listening to him. I think he's doing a great job of coaching. Sometimes you have to let the players find out maybe just they're not as good as they thought they were. And then you got to show them you can be that good, but this is how you be this good, but you're not as bad as what you say you are. So I think good things are going to happen going forward for the YSU men's team. What do you think?
Well, I think so. Now, having said that, look, Emmanuel, there's no secret. This schedule maker gave the Penguins absolutely zero favors. Now, having said that, you got 10 games in which the Penguins are going to be playing 8 road games, 2 home games. Now, right now, the Penguins are 2-4. It is imperative that they get a split from Wright State. Whether they win tonight or win tomorrow, they got to get a split. Now, I'd love to see them win 2 games. I'd also love to date Jennifer Garner, but let's be honest and let's have some realistic expectations.
Ron, she's getting old. You've been wanting to date her for 5 years. You got to get somebody younger than that.
Listen, she still looks, and listen, she might be getting old. She still looks pretty hot. I'm just saying.
Okay, but go ahead.
So, I mean, if the Penguins can get a split against Wright State and then go up to Oakland, Oakland's not as good as Youngstown State. If you get 2 in a row up there, now you got a 5-5 record. 5-5 isn't bad, especially considering the fact the final 10 games, 8 of them are on your home floor, and the schedule really isn't that bad because the top heavy, the teams that you played in the first half are way better than the teams that the Penguins are going to be playing in the second half. So if the Penguins can go 5-5, 4-6 is minimum in this. You got to get at least 4 wins. I'd love to see 5 though. But if you can get 4 wins, the final 10 games, you ought to be able to win at least 8. Well, 8 wins would get you 12 in a 4-win first half season. Hell, if they win 5 games in the first half, now you're looking at 13 wins. So they're going to be okay. It's all about right now Penguins focusing on tonight and getting the victory tonight over a really good Wright State team.
Well, I got faith in them. And now listen here, Ron. I know our buddy, the stats guy, is listening, right? And I'm not a Notre Dame hater. I'm not a Notre Dame hater. But I've been listening to people talk. I've been hearing about what they're doing right, and I've been hearing about what they're doing wrong. But it'd be hard pressed to find another college other than Alabama or Ohio State that has won as many games in the tenure that Kelly has been at Notre Dame. But my question to you, Moses, took his people to the promised land, but he couldn't go there. Has Kelly reached his plateau, his ceiling? Do they need somebody else to get him to the promised land, or what? What do you think?
Honestly, Emmanuel, I think he has reached his limit, unless he decides to change some stuff. I think that he has reached his limit. I'm not a fan. I think that 10 wins, and here's the thing that bothers me more than anything else, and Brian Driscoll hit the nail on the head as he always does. For some of the newbie Notre Dame fans and some of the fans that haven't seen national championships, all of a sudden there is a culture that it's okay to win 10 games and occasionally get into a playoff format. Call me crazy, but I'm not accepting that. I think that Notre Dame should be a team that should be able to go to the playoffs a lot more frequently, and they should be competing for a championship and not getting their doors blown off in the playoffs. And I don't think that unless he changes and goes back to the Brian Kelly innovative young head football coach that put up gargantuan numbers offensively with Cincinnati and Grand Valley. I don't think that Brian Kelly is that guy. I think that you're probably right with this. I think Brian Kelly's reached his ceiling, and frankly, I think if Notre Dame wants to win a championship, they're going to have to go another direction.
Well, I would like to ask you the same question people have asked me about at different times at Ohio State and even YSU. who can replace him?
That's a great question. Honestly, I have no idea. I mean, and that's where you sit back and I've said this all along. If you're going to let someone go, okay, that's your prerogative. But you better make sure that whoever you're letting go, you better make sure you've got a replacement in line ready to go. Otherwise, you're making a grave mistake. Potentially a grave mistake. So, look, Notre Dame's not going to be letting Brian Kelly go anytime soon unless they find someone that they believe can put this team over the top.
Okay. Well, now as far as back to baseball, is Derek Cole, is he in the clear with this illegal use? Well, the guy has the text messages, put him on blast.
Oh, you're talking about
the Angels.
Yeah, you're talking about the Angels. The Angels, the guy that got
Clubhouse
fired.
Guy.
Yeah, the visiting.
Clubhouse.
Yeah, this is an interesting story that broke this morning. The Angels visiting clubhouse guy, who the Angels dismissed either last year or the year before, he's now finally coming out with a pretty interesting story. It seems that this guy developed a combination of rosin that you put in rosin bags and a couple of other things, and has formed a sticky substance that was clear, that you'd be able to have a pitcher use this and they can get away with anything because the substance was very clear. And names have been popped out. Garrett Cole's name is on this list of guys that actually.
He said on the text message. He said on the text message that this stuff in the cold, it gets stiff. He's on the text message saying that.
Oh yeah, he's not the only one, Emmanuel. Corey Kluber. It was a guy that was very much involved in getting some of this stuff. So was Justin Verlander. So was Adam Wainwright. There's a number of high-profile pitchers, that have allegedly purchased some of this stuff that this guy concocted. So it's an interesting and a very fascinating story that broke this morning. And yeah, I don't know what Manfred's going to do about it, but it's Major League Baseball has always had the illusion of we have our house is in order, nobody cheats. Baloney. Listen,
if you're not cheating, you're not trying to win.
Exactly. It's whether it's stealing signs. Now you don't do it through electronics. You simply have someone there that understands
garbage can lids.
Yeah, garbage can lids, and guys that are pitchers that are juicing up, not steroids, but juicing up with the illegal substances. Putting a nail filer in their pants pocket, or putting a portion of their nail filer in one of their fingers and rubbing and scuffing the ball up.
Thumbtack in the gloves.
Yeah, exactly. That stuff's been going on for decades. I mean, this is nothing new. I mean, this stuff has been going on for decades.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now the two big ones, right? I think this for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this right here. Now, I've watched a whole bunch of film from Big Ben from 2005 to now. He's not the same quarterback that he was back in 2010. But the bottom line is this: he has to come through big time, or I think that his legacy will be tarnished. What do you think?
Well, look, I mean, he's already won 2 Super Bowls. I mean, it's.
Tom Brady won 6.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. And Brady denied Roethlisberger a few Super Bowls too. So, I think that Sunday's game is going to go one of two ways. Either it's going to be an absolute blowout in which the Steelers completely dominate this game and destroy Cleveland by 20-plus points, or this game is going to be down to the wire, very close, and who knows what happens. I'm based upon the fact that the Browns have not even practiced yet today or this week.
It's week 18. It's week 18, man. If you still need to practice, you got a problem.
Well, look, I mean, you still got to practice to get your game plan in. You know, they might have changed some things, trying to you
couldn't have got anything. You couldn't have got anything from the Pittsburgh Steelers last weekend. You're not going to see any of those plays that they ran against Cleveland.
Oh no, I agree with that. I agree with that.
Just throw it away, burn it up. That's not going to help you not one bit.
I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But it just, you got to have some practice. You got to have some continuity, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I'm hoping that the practice facilities open up and they're able to get a bit of a practice.
At least a walkthrough, huh?
Yeah, it would be nice if they got a walkthrough. We'll see what happens though.
Well, the last thing, and I've been telling every Ohio State fan that will listen to me, they need to remember, Alabama has not forgotten us beating them for a national title. They have not forgotten that, and they laying and they're waiting for us. I think we can get them. The way you beat Alabama is stop them 5 times. You need 5 stops. One of those stops has to be a turnover. You stop 5 stops. You keep them up under 34 points. I don't care how many field goals they kick. And you beat them because we can score more than 34 points.
Well,
it's probably going to be – go ahead.
Yeah, here's the other thing Ohio State needs to do. If you're going to stop Alabama, you score on the next possession. If you are capable of stopping Alabama, and by the way, I think that I think that both teams are going to combine for about 85 to 90 points. I mean, this is going to be a really high-scoring game.
Ronnie, I didn't want to go here, but you took me here. You need to understand one thing: Alabama scored once in the third quarter and once in the fourth quarter. Notre Dame did enough to beat them; they just couldn't score.
Yeah,
Alabama's going to score 34 points.
You don't have Notre Dame's defense. That's the problem. You don't have Notre Dame's defense. So? No, hell no. You don't have Notre Dame's defense.
I think our safeties. I think our safeties are better than Notre Dame's. I think we have more speed in the defensive backfield.
Look, I mean, I'll repeat what I said. If you stop Alabama from scoring, and they punt, you must score when you stop Alabama. That's keep them on their heels. You've got to be able to do that. Notre Dame didn't do it, and that was, obviously they didn't stop Alabama very often, but when they did, they didn't take advantage of it. You have to take advantage of stopping Alabama, and by doing that, you got to score.
Nobody else has held Alabama to 1 touchdown in the third quarter, 1 touchdown in the fourth quarter. I think in 20 years. Well, so who you picking between Alabama and Ohio State?
Well, I think that it's going to be a high scoring game. Ohio State can beat Alabama. I don't know. I'm going to say 7. Okay. I'm going to say 7 points, 7 to 10 points. Alabama wins 40. Yeah. Oh gosh, what do we want to do here? 40. What do we want to do here? 49 to 41.
Well, if Alabama score 40 points, they'll beat us. Last one, I'm going to let you go. Who are you picking between Tennessee and Baltimore?
Well, I think Baltimore kills Tennessee.
Oh man, they can't stop Tennessee's running back.
Well,
because, they threw for what? 300 yards, ran for another 200, and Tennessee still beat them. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
The Ravens are playing some really good football right now. I think Tennessee. I think Tennessee's defense can be had. Now, the $1 million question is Lamar going to show up in a postseason game? He's 0 for 2 and did not look good in either one of his playoff games that he played. So it's time to find out whether this kid can do something in the postseason. I'm not going to bet, but if I were, my money would be on the Ravens. I think the Ravens win this game, and I honestly don't think it's going to be particularly close. I think the Ravens will find a way to jump out in front of Tennessee and basically alienate their run attack, where Tannehill's going to have to beat him through the air. And, I just think Baltimore winds up winning that game rather easily.
This absolute last thing before I let you go, because it was a big sports weekend. That was a great basketball game last night, that girls' basketball game, McDonald and the Western Reserve. They need to replay that again. That was a great game.
Yeah, it was a little sloppy. It was a little sloppy, but, you could still have a sloppy game. They
were going at it, diving on the floor. They were going at it, man.
That's what made the game really good. That's what made the game really, really top scale good. The sloppiness came from there were a lot of air balls in that game. That was and the passing wasn't crisp. But again, I mean, it's early in the campaign for both of these teams.
Did you see the defense they were playing last night?
Oh, it was good. It was top shelf. That's what made the game fascinating. No, I want to see these two teams play again later in the season up in McDonald. And again, keep in mind, McDonald, this was one of their first games of the year. Western Reserve, they've been playing basketball, but they haven't played as many games as they should. So, I'm looking forward to the next meeting and hopefully the meeting after that.
Have a great weekend, my brother.
Man, you too. 330-886-0813. Now, there's a couple of things it was a little sloppy. But having said that, oh, God, the defense was good. Oh, the defense was good in that game. It was good, and it was physical. Kids getting after it, diving for the loose balls. It was fun. It was a solid game. It was a solid game. The shooting was but it was a solid game. I definitely want to see another round between those two teams. No two ways about that. All right, speaking of rounds, round 2 of the PGA event in Hawaii is coming up around the bend, and we will catch up with Brian Tolner and get his take on the PGA season. Yeah, early January, and we're talking golf. Man, the golf season's already started. I don't even think it stopped, to be honest with you. Did it stop in the month of December? I don't think it did. Anyway, we'll catch up with Brian Tolnar. We're also going to be hearing about some of the things that he's hoping to see this spring and summer when we get the warm weather and get back to playing some golf in northeastern Ohio. We'll catch up with Brian coming up in a bit. It is a Friday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Before we take a break, I would be very, very remiss if I did not announce this. Sad news from the world of baseball. Legendary Dodgers manager Tommy Lasorda passing away this morning. What a character. Oh, good Lord, what a character. I had the opportunity working in the Dodger organization. I had an opportunity to spend some time with this guy, and he had a wicked sense of humor. Oh, dear Lord, was his sense of humor wicked. He was a really good manager too. Fantastic manager. Good baseball guy. And even when he was done as the manager, he was still very much revered in Vero Beach. And the one story that I'll always remember, it was early on in spring training, and Tommy was no longer the manager of the team, but he was always, his presence was always there in Vero. And I was delivering some things to one of the back fields, and Tommy Lasorda was driving around in his personal golf cart. Plenty of golf carts in Vero. I mean, Dodger Town was absolutely gorgeous. It just was, and it's a very spacious place. A lot of paved roads for these golf carts, and these guys in the backfields, they're in the batting cages, and this one particular guy is in the cage, and he's taking some BP, and he's hitting the ball pretty decently, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here comes Tommy Lasorda, and he's got his golf cart, and he's driving along, and he sees something that he didn't like, and he slams on the brakes, and you hear the tires squeal, and he comes out of this golf cart, and Tommy was never svelte, leave it at that, but leave it at that. So here comes this guy, and he starts walking over, and he's not interrogating, but he's asking some questions to this kid. And all of a sudden, Tommy's like, no, this is not how you do this thing. This is how you do it. And then he gets into the batting cage, and he starts telling the kid, this is what you got to do. You got to do this. And it was hilarious to see, and it was Tommy. That was the way he was. It was hilarious to see, but just out of the blue, he sees something out of the corner of his eye, slams on the brakes, gets out of his golf cart, starts running over toward the batting cages, stops everything. And it's not like he was the manager back then. I mean, he was a member of the Dodgers front office, but he wasn't the manager. But he stopped everything and just said, "No, you got to do this, and this." And it was a great teachable moment. Anyway, Tommy Lasorda passing away today at the age of 93. An interesting guy. No two ways about that. All right, we'll take a timeout. Brian Tolnar coming up in a bit. Stick around.
21 News.
Let's get right to our top story tonight.
More experienced reporters.
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
Telling more local stories.
We'll look at efforts
Boy is recovering from a broken.
Around our valley.
Community in Niles. We are here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect.
It's important for everyone. No place like home.
More local news.
In Mercer County Court.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Attention football fans, order Coca's Pizza tailgate package for only $54.99. You'll receive 24 slices of our delicious cheese pizza, 20 jumbo wings, and 2 of our famous foot-long pepperoni rolls. Coca's Pizza, we serve it hot.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Your Armstrong services are more important than ever. There are more and more connected devices in the home these days. To get the most out of your experience, you need a network that is always getting better. You deserve superior performance, and that's what Armstrong offers every day. Whether you're working from home, enjoying your favorite content together, or simply catching up while apart, count on Armstrong to keep you connected to what matters most.
To Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years. I think whenever we go there, whatever car we're looking for, they have tremendous inventory.
If you're looking for people who care about you, Greenwood is the place to go.
It's like family there. The girls know me in service. It's Miss Kim in the Tahoe.
I'm really happy that I went to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy-efficient experts.
Welcome back to a Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. There's our guy. Got a picture of Brian Tolnar up on the screen. Brian Tolnar, he runs Mill Creek. He is our PGA guru, and it's golf season. Listen, I understand it's cold here, and it's not snowy, thank God, but it is golf season in Hawaii. The Century Tournament of Champions going on at the Plantation Course at Kapalua in Kapalua, Maui, Hawaii. And joining us to talk about that tournament, among other things, is our golf guru from Mill Creek, Brian Tolnar, on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Brian, what's up?
Hey, not too much. Made it out of
2020 unscathed, and I'm excited for another season here at Mill Creek and another season on YSN. Couldn't be happier with looking outside. The sun is out today. There's no snow on the ground, and a lot of people out walking the golf course right now. And there's a couple rumblings that some places may open this weekend for play. So, if you want to dust off those golf clubs and you're bored, there may be a place or two available in the Mahoning Valley this weekend. So
Okay, let me
in January.
Let me ask you because we talked so much last time we spoke. We were talking about what you guys do to winterize golf courses. Now, with all of that being said, you winterize a golf course, and whether it snows or not, you're still winterizing the golf course. If you open a golf course, let's say this weekend, does that harm the winterization of your golf course?
To be quite honest with you, it does a little bit, and here's the reason why. The grass is not germinating right now, so any divots that you take, any turf damage to the ground, whether it be a golf cart or walking on it or so on and so forth, it just doesn't have the opportunity to come back that quickly. So come spring, you're filling in those divots that haven't grown back. You're putting seed. You're doing the maintenance to get those to grow back. Now, when the weather breaks and you've got germination, you've got a different story, approaching. But for us, obviously, we feel with having upgraded our conditions here, we want to make sure that it's pristine when everybody starts out in March or April or whenever the season changes weather-wise to go from there. But if you're a private business and you're a family-owned operation and you've got an opportunity to make a couple extra bucks here or there, a couple thousand here or there, it's well worth it too. It's just another give or take. It's what the maintenance schedule is, and it's what the staffing is, and it's what the quality of your facility is.
Brian, let me ask you, in a perfect world, the perfect off-season for a golf course in the north of the Mason-Dixon line, does that involve a lot of snow where the blanket of snow is consistently on top of the grass all winter long?
It does, and the reason that it does is because that's, just like think of the insulation in your attic. It keeps the cold air from penetrating the warm inside, and that's really what the layer of snow does. We're really, from a turf grass standpoint, we're trying not to get ice on the ground. You're trying to protect it from all the frost, the deep colds that you get, throughout the course of the January and February and late December, depending upon, what Mother Nature throws at us here in northeastern Ohio. So that, a 3 or 4 inch blanket of snow till March 1st is a, superintendent's dream, just because that's great insulation from protecting the turf grass and keeping it well. Obviously doing late aerification, in November, December, those pores of the greens and fairways and tees are open, so you're susceptible to, if you get ice, if you get snow that's not of significant amounts, that stuff will penetrate the ground, and that's when you start talking about your diseases. And, from that perspective, come spring, if you have, open pores into the ground and you have a lot of diseases, that translates into spending a ton more in chemicals and maintenance and upkeep, and the quality of your golf course out of the gate in the spring, certainly is going to suffer by not having that, or, having folks, play, and then you get some bad weather and those divots never get filled, and then you're working on, basically the stuff that we just talked about.
So essentially, you're hoping as a superintendent or as someone who wants to see the absolute best from Mill Creek, you're hoping for temperatures to remain below freezing with snow and snow from now till March the 1st, where you don't see grass and it's constant 2+ inches of snow on top of the grass at Mill Creek.
In a perfect world, yes, because it's going to protect the ground, it's going to protect your surface, it's going to protect your turf grass, and obviously if it's 40 or 50 degrees from here on out, that's a different story, and we dodge the weather all year. Then you can open in late February, early March, and so on down the line. But knowing what we normally get in January and late January, early February, we always get dusted with some snow in early parts of March, or we have the past couple of years, with the exception of last year. you do want that layer of insulation or protection, so to speak.
Okay, now let me ask you, and obviously this area doesn't get it all the time, but it has been known to have blizzard type of conditions where we get snow in feet. Let's say, God forbid, we get a snowstorm where 2+ feet of snow falls. Is that a terrible thing for you, or is that something that could wind up being a really good thing?
It's more of a good thing than it is bad. Obviously getting 2 feet, when it melts off, there's going to be a lot of groundwater when it's all said and done. So that's what you run into there. But that's really doesn't harm you too much. It's the ice getting in there, and it's freezing after it thaws off. So once you've got that first layer in there, you're basically protected. No matter how much you get above that 2 or 3 inch level, you're in pretty good shape. So it's a catch-22, and you don't want to see that in March because you're thinking about playing and getting everything back in shape, and people on the golf course on the weekends and stuff again. And from that aspect, but for 2 or 3 feet of snow, it's good, but the groundwater is what you got to contend for when everything starts to melt off.
Brian Tilnar, our guest, he is the guru of golf over at Mill Creek, and he is our PGA expert. And speaking of the PGA season, I don't even think it's stopped, but it's rolling again. The Century Tournament of Champions, the Plantation Course at Kapalua, Maui, Hawaii. Brian, have you had the pleasure of going to Hawaii to golf on this course?
You know what? I have not. Never been to any of the islands in Hawaii. I do know the golf professional at Kapalua. It was a guy that was in the Western New York section when I was there. His name is Freeman. Good friend of mine. Got to meet up with him at the PGA show the past couple of years since he left the Western New York section. So it's been about 10 or 15 years since we both worked in that section. I know from everything that I talked to him with, the biggest concern when you go to the islands is obviously the wind and the weather. And most of the time it's in pristine shape, and the weather's 80 degrees. They get a 10-minute rain splash here or there. The wind's the biggest key from a weather standpoint because the weather is going to be extremely warm. So anytime that you go to any of the islands in Hawaii, that's probably the biggest thing the players are going to key on this week. They're going to spend 2 weeks in Hawaii, obviously this week with the Tournament of Champions. Then they head over to the Big Island to do the Sony Hawaiian Open, one of the oldest PGA events on the PGA Tour. This golf course, when you go to Kapalua, it's a coastline golf course, so you're susceptible to the winds that are coming off the ocean. It's not that that's a bad thing as we're sitting here and it's 29 degrees or 39 degrees or whatever it is outside. But they still have to contend with some winds on the golf course. However, their fairways are extremely wide. They're 75 yards wide in some cases, which is an eternity wide from a PGA Tour perspective standpoint. You got to keep in mind that it's a 36-hole property this week, and it's a resort facility, so it's built to take on amateur golf. And some of the players that don't get an opportunity, but they're just there on a vacation and want to go out and play. So the golf course is set up very generous with wide fairways. And, for a PGA Tour player, they talk about Hawaii being a paradise. It's really a bomber's paradise from a player standpoint. With the winds being concerned, you can hit it 9 miles, the ball's going to roll forever. You can watch a shot or two. And if you recall back to the year when Bubba Watson won it, he hit a driver off the deck on the last hole, which is almost 700 yards. It's a par 5, knocked it on in 2, but that ball rolled probably a good 75 to 100 yards to make it on the green. You're going to see a lot of drives like that this week from all the players in the field. It's the players that can play the wind and judge the wind the best this week to be able to get it close. Sort of an anomaly on the PGA Tour. The par this week is 73, so you're looking at only 3 par 3s on the golf course, 4 par 5s. There's a lot of par 4s, and you have to be a good iron player, throwing those into the mix. So I think the player that hits some good iron shots and bombs it off the tee certainly has the advantage. Total length of this course is about 7,600 yards. And to put that in perspective, Avalon Lakes from the back tees is 7,600 yards. So if you had an opportunity to play those or see those while you were playing out there, they are 9 miles back from where the traditional tees are. Goodness, for them, is it's going to play a little bit shorter, probably play about 7,200 because of the wind and how far the ball rolls out there. So smaller purse in a smaller field this week, only 42 players qualified for this year's event because it is a Tournament of Champions event. They're only playing for $6.7 million for 42 players. I think the odds are pretty darn good. Everybody's going to get a paycheck this week. Tournament record was set by Ernie Els back in 2003 at 31 under par, and our reigning champion is Justin Thomas, who's had a great run in the state of Hawaii with wins at the Tournament of Champions and the Sony Hawaiian Open. So I expect great things from Justin this week, as they get the ground running, which they kicked off a little while ago. So it's nice to be able to watch these events here back home in prime time in the evening. You'll have that this week, next week as they're in Hawaii as well, and then when they kick off the West Coast swing and hit California on the PGA Tour here in another 2 or 3 weeks down the road. So it's an exciting time to be a golfer, an exciting time to get the season started, especially when you look out the window today. I know it's cold, but the sun's out and it's bright and sunny, and it's a big difference when the sun's out here in Ohio, because you're excited to go out and do some fun stuff.
All right, Harris English and Justin Thomas completed their first round. They both shot an 8 under par 65. Jason Kokrak had an interesting day in his first round. He was all over the place in the front 9. Shot a 1 over par, which is interesting because he birdied 3 holes. He bogeyed 2 and he double bogeyed 1. And then he was 1 over through 14. Eagled the par 5 15th hole and birdied the 18th hole to finish 2 under par in the first round. He's 6 shots back. He's in 30th place. Obviously off to a slow start in terms of trying to catch up with Harris English and Justin Thomas. Also, Robert Streb at 6 under par. Sergio is 6 under par. And Nick Taylor, the Canadian, is 6 under par as well. What is Jason going to have to do to get into the top 15?
I think Jason, all he has to do is, and he doesn't have to go crazy and shoot 62, 63, 4, or 5. However, I think that score's out there for some of the players. I think if he shoots, a couple 66s or 67s, get his feet underneath him, I think he's going to be right in the hunt come this weekend. I mean, there are some opportunities to shoot low scores when you get hot. I think if he chooses to play in the Sony Hawaii Open next week, I think it's a course that really favors him with his length. So I think he's going to be in the mix. However, that field's not set until 5 o'clock today. The players have to get in there. But I would say probably about 75% of the Tournament of Champions field this week will be in that field next week, and I don't expect him probably not being in there. If you're on the island or you're out close to jumping from Maui to jumping to Hawaii is not that big of a deal for those guys. A lot of guys will stay there and then also stay another week for a vacation before they hit the West Coast swing. So I think there's opportunity for him over the next 2 weeks. And obviously this week, just getting your feet back and getting your feet underneath you for competition is certainly there. Now everybody else in that field's dealing with the same thing right now too. I mean, if you look at the Dustin Johnson, not where they want to be or not where you would normally see them on a leaderboard. But as they continue to play rounds and get some rounds under their belt early in the season, I think they'll be back to where they finished last year when the FedEx Cup wrapped up and the season was over. So I think, you will see some big names. It's going to be the guys that can manage the golf course, proficiently with the wins, if there is any going from today through Sunday. And I think, you're dealing with a lot of issues. Obviously, people are down there. You're bringing your family for the island for 2 weeks to be on vacation as well, as Dad's going out there to play. But I think there's also some unawareness with the equipment because everybody's changing equipment usually in January, February. So there's a lot of new equipment out, a lot of new models, a lot of players jumping equipment companies. So I think that there's a learning curve with getting some new equipment under your belt as well, that some of these players are some are struggling with them. Others are doing well. Like, John Rahm obviously shot 3 under. He went from TaylorMade to Callaway, and he shot a course record in the practice round and is hanging around. So it's a little bit different for some of those players as they hit California in a couple weeks with the West Coast swing.
Brian, let me ask you, because, the money aspect of this, not just the fact that you're making money, obviously, if you're one of the golfers that were fortunate enough to be invited to this tournament, you're going to be making money whether you finish first or last. But the money aspect that you brought up is a company is wanting to invest in the brand, and they give this golfer brand new equipment. At what point in time do the golfers normally get this equipment, and how long do these guys have to, for lack of a better term, test out the new equipment before the season starts?
Well, they do have some time in the off season. A lot of players will take off the latter couple weeks in December or the whole month of December if they feel comfortable with where they're at going into the new season. So you do have a little bit of that. Companies will give you prototypes and stuff through the season prior, to use or mess around with. If you do a product search on, hey, what's in the winner's bag, they'll say, Callaway driver prototype. They won't tell you what the driver is. That means they're testing out something that's going to come out to the general public the following January and February. So they have access to those equipment needs early on. A lot of players, from an iron standpoint, there's, the irons that they play are basically a forged iron. So there's really not much that you can do with a forged iron as opposed to moving and shifting some weight here and there. That makes a big difference. That's going to impact their game. So a lot of players will use irons from whatever their company is, from 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10 years back, because they like a particular make and model. So it's more so the driver, the fairway woods, the hybrids, the putters, the technology that you can gain in those areas are probably the most important. The wedges, design of your wedges and the grooves and the whole 9 yards will have them hitting the ball a little bit differently than they do with their traditional equipment. So that the learning curve for them, for most of them, is only going to be about a month or two, if that, if they're willing to afford to, have a couple top 30 or top 50 finishes with trying something new. They'll go back to their old club, or they'll change or adjust, a shaft or just a club head here or there. So it depends on what level player you are, how much time that you're going to be willing to spend, knowing that every event that you don't play well is going to be losing you money on the PGA Tour and losing you FedEx Cup points. The better players can have that luxury of tinkering a little bit more. However, you can get into some equipment deals that just don't suit you altogether, and those are locked in for like a year of having to play that equipment, and that's where we've seen a couple players struggle in the past. Justin Rose is a perfect example of that. He started off, he played his career with TaylorMade. He went to a company, I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, called Homna, and really just didn't work out for him. He struggled after winning, 2 or 3 events, consecutive years, and just didn't do well, and went back to I think he went to Callaway after that, or maybe TaylorMade, back to TaylorMade. So, it's all, he had the luxury of being able to skate through that for a year, and it didn't really affect him. It didn't really affect the events that he got in based on his prior performance. But some guys just coming out from the Korn Ferry Tour, the Under Tours, they don't have that luxury to mess around. They need to know what they have in the bag, and it's going to be able to perform for them. So, there's a lot of money on the table with the endorsements, not only with the equipment, with everything else that the players wear on the hats and the shirts and the whole 9 yards. But the equipment is probably the most important.
No, absolutely. And then, as you mentioned, the money that these guys get for the shirts that they wear, if advertising on the shirts, advertising on the golf bag, advertising on the bill of the cap that they wear, if they wear a hat. There's all kinds of money for these guys, not just the check at the end of a golf tournament.
Yeah, there's a pile of money, and I can tell you this: they're all millionaires before they go out there. I can tell you that. No one's living paycheck to paycheck, going from PGA Tour event to PGA Tour event, just in the money that they get, and based on the level of player that you are, like say the top 10 in the world rankings, those players are worth X amount of value based on the TV time and based on the exposure that the sponsor gets. Then it goes from the top 20 to top 30. Those players are worth a value. Top 30 to top 50, and all the way down to the top 200 or 300 players world ranked in all over whether you play European Tour or the PGA Tour, there's a lot of money to be made before you tee off. And like I said, even the 300th player on the world rankings is getting, a couple $1 million before he tees it up. So, I mean, I kind of laugh. I mean, you look at like a Tiger Woods, for example, or Phil Mickelson. Those guys make like $80 million before they tee a ball up. The most that they're ever going to win, if they win 2 or 3 times in a season, $10 million. So, I mean, they're making way more off the golf course than they are on. So it's kind of funny that that you have that. And probably I would say the top 50 or top 100 are making more than they're going to make on a PGA Tour season. But it's exposure, it's commercial time, and it's access to a player for a business's charity event or a fundraiser or anything like that, or meeting the staff at KPMG or at Nike or at wherever you have across the board. There's a ton of money and ton of potential out there, and that's where they make it, even before they tee it up.
Brian, let me ask you something kind of off the wall, but really important for the image of the golfers. I mean, obviously, you want to have someone with a background of public relations or a background in the broadcasting business, so these guys will look really good when they're on camera. Are there golfers that hire guys that have a broadcasting background or a PR background that improves their image somewhat?
I can tell you this. I'm not sure if it's marketing related, but each player has an agent that sets up all these deals. And that goes back to Arnold Palmer started this back in the late 50s, early 60s with IMG and Mark McCormick. And, since they started that, Mark McCormick basically went from all athletes to just concentrating on golf, because that was one of the conditions that Arnie had. He goes, I want you to focus on golf and focus on, my career. I don't want you focusing on 4 NFL players, 2 NBA players, Major League Baseball, and so on. And how it started with IMG was they had Arnold Palmer was the leader of that. 2 years later, you had Jack Nicklaus under that wing. You had Gary Player, and it all started coming, to that from that standpoint. Now, when Tiger came out and started playing well in the mid to late 90s, that blew up another wing of, hey, every player needs an agent, and they're all, contacting these companies. And, based on what your player rank is, like say I'm a top 10 player, the collar on a shirt's worth X amount of money. The sleeve on a shirt, right or left's worth X amount of money. The front of your hat, the side of your hat, your caddy's towel, your caddy's hat, on the bag is worth X amount of money. An extra side panel of a bag is worth X, Y, and Z. And it's hundreds of thousands of dollars for these major companies to advertise. You look at United Rentals, you look at Zurich. I mean, you look at anything, Allstate, Progressive, anything that these guys are sponsored by, they're getting their advertising budget out of it. And every Monday they get a sheet saying, hey, you had 310 hits on ESPN. You had 710 hits on NBC when it hit the weekend for the nationwide service, or CBS or ABC. They get a report every single Monday saying what that player is driving them in FaceTime on television, in FaceTime in the community, and the whole 9 yards. The tracking stuff that I've seen personally, they're a buddy that sponsors a couple players on the PGA Tour. His company is unbelievable, the value that they get out of it. And, you look at Phil Mickelson, he's been wearing a KPMG hat. You look at Tiger Woods, he's been wearing a Nike hat forever. Those are national brands, and to pay those guys a couple $1 million to do that on a company that does billions of dollars is chump change, really.
Brian Tolnar joining us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. All right, so in Hawaii, it's 5 hours time difference between Hawaii and the Eastern Standard Time. So the Golf Channel will have coverage of the Century Tournament of Champions today from 4 to 10 o'clock tonight. On Saturday, the Golf Channel will have the TV side of it from 6 to 10 p.m. on Saturday night. Sunday, golf coverage on NBC from 4 to 6, and then go to the Golf Channel for the rest of the tournament from 6 until 8 o'clock on Sunday nights. The FedEx Cup points, Kokrak is currently 7th with 596 points. He is within striking distance to get into the top 5 or 4 with a really good finish this weekend. Obviously it's early on in the FedEx Cup season, but Kokrak in the top 10, that's a solid start.
Yeah, I think with the wraparound season and, him personally having 6 events in, with a win with 596 points coming in at 7th, he's down 2 spots in the last week's ranking. When they had Victor Hovland picked up a win in the offseason, went from 60 to 3rd place and shook everything up. But you look at Dustin Johnson at 1, you look at Bryson DeChambeau at 2, and then the lower half are guys that have just recently picked up a win or have been knocking on the door. Justin Thompson's in 8th. You've got Matt Wolf and Sergio Garcia at 10th right now. Majority of those guys, with the exception of Justin Thomas and Matt Wolf, everybody in there has a win. Jason certainly has that luxury of using that win towards this year's points because of the way the season wraps around. And, if he has a good week this week and next week, he's going to be hanging around for a while and has a good West Coast swing, which he normally plays really well in California, especially when they get to, La Jolla and Hollywood, those events down there. So I think he's got a really good shot to set himself up right out of the gate this spring with a good finish. Doesn't have to be a win at the tournament champions this week, but a nice, good, midfield to upper end finish. Somewhere between 15 or 20th place or north of that would put him in pretty good shape going into Sony. And I think it's the golf course the following week when he heads to the Big Island to play Sony that he could play extremely well and have a shot at winning and driving some par 4s there and really overpowering that golf course and picking up that second win on the PGA Tour before he hits the West Coast swing. So it's a good run for him, and I think he's well positioned based on the hard work that he put together in the fourth quarter of last year.
Now, obviously, this week they're at Kapalua, Maui, but next week they're going to be on the main island. And, I've never been to Hawaii, but from what I understand, there is a gigantic difference between golfing in Maui and golfing on the main island. Why is that?
The difference is, when you go to Maui, it's more of a tourism island. You got a lot of travelers there. It's a lot of recreation golf. It's a little bit different. It's more island. It's more scenic. When you head to the Big Island, it's more of like a normal city in the United States. I mean, obviously the weather's still great. You're taking all the benefits of that, but it's you're going to a country club to play now, as opposed to playing at a resort course where you've got people just everywhere. And not this year, obviously, with the COVID stuff and people not traveling, so it's going to be a little bit different than what we've seen this week compared to what we've seen in years past. But when you go back to a traditional golf course, a country club that's all the facilities are there, and it has a different feel to it. The golf course is going to be a little bit shorter. Obviously, the purse is a little bit smaller. It's going to be a 144-player field. All the par 5s in the course are reachable by everybody in the field, and you've got a couple reachable par 4s at Waialae Country Club. Obviously, some players are still on vacation and are playing a little bit. They're there because they're exempt and they're going to play and pick up a check. I think when you head to Waialae at the Sony Open, it really comes into the mix that everybody's in the field because the shorter players can hit the par 5s and 2. Some veterans have won there in the past. It takes a little bit of experience to play there. It's a place that doesn't see the winds that kick in when you're on the coastline of Maui that you're going to see in Hawaii. And, having, the golf course being a little bit shorter and reachable, you're looking at probably another 25 to 30 under finish at the end of the week. Par 70 is next week. So, and a lot of the players that hadn't had the opportunity to play in the tournament champions this week are back there. So it gets you back to more of a tour event than just this 42-player small field. Everybody's going to make a check this week event. Next week you got the cut that comes into play. And then people are jockeying, getting their equipment ready that didn't have the opportunity this week, because you had to win a tournament to get in the tournament champions to be able to play next week before you hit the West Coast swing in California and all the traditional events that we're used to, the AT&T Pebble Beach, the event at Torrey Pines and, the event at La Jolla. So, I think it's certainly exciting, and it's a great time for golf with you can watch this in prime time for over the next probably month or so. So it bodes well for the game, and I think if you look at the players that are signed up to play in some of these events, You're going to see the Dustin Johnsons. You're going to see the Bryson DeChambeaus. You're going to see the Jason Kokrak's and the Justin Thomases and some big name players gear up because it's very important to get off to a hot start and play 3 or 4 of the events on the West Coast when they hit the continental U.S.
Hey, Brian, one more thing before we let you go, and we're speaking with Brian Tolnar from Mill Creek, and again, it won't be too long before golfing is going to be another big thing in the Mahoning Valley, and hopefully we have a year that's just as good as last year, because I know that'll put a big smile on your face, because I know how insanely busy you guys were in 2020, but let me ask you before we let you go, it's kind of a twofold question. Number one, what are some of the new apparel and equipment that you guys are looking forward to grabbing that you're going to be putting in your clubhouse store? And number two, what are some of the potential changes that you're hoping can be part of the budget in 2021?
Well, as we move forward, obviously equipment stuff will start rolling in here. The companies will start launching that in usually at the PGA show, which is the last week of January. This year's show is done virtually, so it's going to be interesting because this is the first one I've ever done virtually, and it's really hard to look and gauge equipment and clothing when you're seeing it on a computer screen as opposed to physically touching it and feeling it and making sure it has the right fit for your facility. So we've done a lot of work in the off season with spending a little bit more time with our reps, knowing that they have some samples to look at, knowing that we weren't going to be able to look at it, figuring that they would cancel the event due to COVID. So, we've done some research and we've done some of our ordering based off of what we physically have seen because we want to make sure it's the right mix for our customers and what we think we can sell here. So we spent a little bit more time than we normally have and expecting to spend, quite a bit more time over the next 2 weeks as these products start to launch and the companies start to advertise them. You'll start seeing some of them in players' bags this week based on if the camera gets close and if it's, the Callaway new driver. We've got, a couple of our fitting cart heads in. So I've got to see the club that's going to come out, and they're going to launch an advertising campaign in February and in March. And then once we get to that point, our merchandise will start coming in here. Our goal is always to be suited up and ready to go by the 15th of March. If we open up, a couple weeks earlier, we're ready. If we open up a couple weeks later, we're still ready. So, I think from that standpoint, the equipment's going to be a little bit different. The clothing's going to be a little bit different, but we'll still have our full lineup of every brand that you normally would see: the Antiguas, the Callaways, the Pumas, you name it. We'll have all of that stuff there, the FootJoys of the world. It's just a matter of making sure that we have the right fit to fit, the customer base that's here. I think from a new standpoint this year, we've got a couple things. Obviously, oversee the recreation of the entire park. We're working on right now we're in conceptual design and hopefully have a March bid and an offer to a company to redo the warming house up at the Wick Recreation area. Knock on wood, that would be a indoor recreation facility. We really want to make the Wick Recreation facility down, by Rocky Ridge our hub of recreation. We hired a recreation manager. Our goal is to have youth, kids leagues, and a myriad of sports, taking advantages of the fields that are up there, the volleyball courts, the new deck hockey rink that we have, concerts, the whole 9 yards. We want to make that a family recreation, sort of a fun center, and I call it the recreational hub for the Metro Parks. That building will be a component of that. Hopefully we'll be able to start and break ground on construction to the current existing building, demolition of some of the stuff that's going to be up there. We're going to use the core of what's up there, but, really reshape and recondition that facility. That way we can have some sports in the winter. We can have some recreation offices up there. We can have some restrooms and some locker rooms, things that are really needed with the addition of the wet playground and the deck hockey. Have an indoor rental space where we can do some paddle ball and some nice stuff inside. You name it, conferences or just wrap up ceremonies for our leagues and stuff where you can have, a little ceremony at the end, you can come in there and you can use those facilities. So, I think with all of that being on the docket, it'll be a little bit less of a footprint for golf. Now we're talking about doing some renovations in our lobby and our Hole 55 upgrade. Both of those are restaurant area. We've also talked about some restrooms, and those are on the golf course, basically based on some grants that are out there. So right now, all the grants have been put on hold since COVID kicked in last year. Otherwise, we probably would have had something early this spring, but it's a goal to get some of that done this year based on what's available. Free money is always great when all you have to do is plan for it, and some grant money out there covers it. So we're cognizant on that. We're cognizant on obviously spending money, but on the same token, I'm excited for where we finished the year last year. It was probably the most rounds we've ever had here. Financially, it was a great year for us. So it's time for us to continue to be able to reinvest back in the product. And our goal's been the same since I've been here and since my boss has been here. We want to make this obviously the gem of the community, which it is, but we want to make it so it's something that you're proud of. Some areas have gotten run down, and we've been able to reinvest into those and make them better than how we found them. And I think that's what you're going to continue to see, not only last year with the card pass on the golf course, but, getting some restroom facilities, upgrading our starter facilities, getting a covered cart barn and some more permanent structure outing facilities. We've got a great 10-year plan laid out. And I think as we're in our 6th year, finishing that and then working on the next 10 is what I feel excited about. And to be able to think that we were able to bring, whether it be because of COVID or whether it be because of the upgrades that we've had here the past, 4, 5, and 6 years, that we've brought some people that haven't touched the club in 10 or 15 years back to the game. My biggest goal for the year, whether it's in recreation or if it's in golf, is going to be retention. We want to make sure everybody that's had the opportunity to come here continually comes back here and enjoys what we have, because we have some great things here at the Metro Parks, not only with golf, but top to bottom. And it's a matter of when this COVID ban is lifted, which we're hopeful is going to be in early April for us or mid-April for us, and everything starts to settle down, we'll be back to a more normal life with some great things happening. We've got the Ford Nature thing that's under construction. It's got one more year to go for the education aspect of the Metro Parks. We put in the disc golf and haven't been able to really utilize it up at the Metro Parks Farms because of the COVID stuff with programming from a programming perspective. We've got a whole layout of programs that we introduced last year that we couldn't run any of them. I mean, there's some great opportunities, getting the boathouses open again, having concerts at the Morley Pavilion up at the Wick Recreation area are certainly things that we're excited about, but it's just a matter of having the COVID handcuffs come off and getting us back and going. That's the stuff I'm excited about, amongst, the budgets and everything that we're working really hard and the being prepared. Our success has really relied on being prepared and being very organized. And we've been able to do that the past 6 years that I've been here, and heading into my 7th season, I'm excited to see, the benefits of all the hard work that, bringing people back in the fray that walked away from golf 10 years ago or 15 years ago, that are now bringing kids out, that will have kids in our junior camps and our junior clinics, no matter what sport it is. I think that the potential here is phenomenal, and I really do think the best is yet to come for Mill Creek.
I agree with you 1,000,000 times over, whether it's walking on the trails near the golf course, and then you can walk on the other side on over by Shields Avenue, the trails over there, whether it's going into the Rose Garden, whether it's going into Lake Newport. It's just, Mill Creek is such a treasure in the Mahoning Valley, and I have said this 1,000,000 times, and I'll probably say it 1,000,000 more before they bury me. I just, for the life of me, would love to have a Fortune 500 company come and spend a couple of days in the Mahoning Valley, and just for them to see firsthand how crazy it is that people that are in the business sector, the Fortune 500 type of companies, how crazy it is that we do not have any representation in the Mahoning Valley. You want to talk about an area that deserves to have it, not only from the aspect of what you've been talking about with pristine golf courses in this area and just pristine things in this area, but from the fact of the cost of living is so dirt cheap here. real estate market is so dirt cheap here. You've got incredible restaurants, incredible food. You've got, Lord knows, you've got plenty of activities year-round in this area. It's crazy to me that a Fortune 500 company or two has not invested in the Mahoning Valley.
You know what? I 100% agree with you, and I've obviously shared that with the folks here too as well. You know, having the ability to have spent time in Rochester, New York for 10 plus years, and being able to, you know, spend time in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and Ponte Vedra, Florida, you know, seeing what those areas have company-wise and why we don't have it is mind-boggling to me, and it's certainly a head-scratcher. But, you know, this park, there's nothing like this park anywhere else that I've ever been. They have parks, and yeah, they're okay, they're good. They're nothing like what Mill Creek is. And, you know, out of all the places that I've worked at, and I've worked at, you know, resort facilities, I've worked at private facilities, public facilities, obviously this being a municipal public facility owned by a Metro Park system. Out of every place that I worked at, I've had more fun here in the past 6 years, and I'm excited for the next 6 years. I mean, I really am. To be honest with you, I get bored about year 6 or year 7 and want to go do something else or work for somebody else. This is the only place that there's so many moving parts and there's so much potential that I don't know that there's enough years left for me to do what I want to fully do here. I'm proud to be here. I'm excited to be here, and I think that folks need to know that this area is here for the taking, and the potential that's here. And you have rail, you have an airport underutilized, you have rail probably underutilized, you have every highway coming through here, you have waterways here. I mean, we are set up for something ginormous, and it's just a matter of one domino to fall before they all fall in, and you get 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, and that's where communities like Rochester and has changed and adapted with the times. When Xerox hit the tank, they changed and adapted their model. Their Kodak, Bausch and Lomb, Hewlett Packard, they have some big organizations, Wegmans and Paychecks, and the list goes on and on. They've been able to adjust, adapt, and evolve, which is what we preach to everybody that's in my department. That's on every letterhead for me, adjust, adapt, and evolve, and it's in every meeting that we have as a staff. Because the things that we did here 6 years ago are different than the stuff that we did 2 years ago and the stuff that we're going to do next year. You got to keep it fresh, and you got to adjust and adapt. You can't just say, hey, this is the way it is, and this is the way it's always going to be. People want to be at a place where they can make a memory and walk away and say, boy, I remember doing this 10 years ago. I remember doing this 5 years ago. And it's our job for here at the park for us to give you that memory. But I think from a community standpoint, people have those in Rochester. People have those in Hilton Head. And I think people have them here, but they need to be magnified here. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff and a lot of great history that happened here. And I think it's a matter of transitioning yourself to the next thing, to being able to adjust, adapt, and evolve. Buffalo's a perfect example. If you look at Buffalo and you look at Rochester, Rochester changed immediately with the times. Buffalo didn't for a little bit, and now it's starting to change again. And then you're looking at, the waterway going up on 90 through Buffalo to Niagara Falls is completely different than what it was when I first moved up there. They've reinvested billions of dollars. Companies have come in. They've cleaned it up. There's some green space. It's beautiful. Rochester, same thing. And I think that this community, it can be done here in a heartbeat. You have to get exposure to what we have to offer here, and I think that there's some great stuff. That's one of the reasons that I moved back. Obviously having family here, and myself having a young family, and being able to share what I shared with my grandparents and great grandparents and aunts and uncles was something that I wanted to share with my kids. So, that was the point of coming back here, and we didn't have any more ties up to New York because my wife's family had moved on. It was the right position at the right time, and I'm having more fun here than anybody, and I think others should be able to have as much fun as I'm having here based on the potential that the Mahoning Valley brings.
Amen, my brother. Now, of course, the first thing that you should be working on is the pamphlet that, needs to happen before the golf season starts. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying.
Well, I've got a text out to DJ. We're supposed to get together here in a couple weeks. And I've got some ideas that I think are going to blow you guys' mind. And I think that there's some opportunities for both of us to be able to do some cool stuff to, gain some exposure to what we do here with, whether it be, through the lens of golf or recreation, but I think it'd be a perfect fit. So we'll see where we are, and, that definitely is on the docket. I would like to do something there, co-branded with YSN, because I think it would be cool. And I think could be a great relationship and networking partnership for both of us. So I'm excited about that, and, 2021 finally got here, and I'm excited for the year. I'm excited the potential, what's going to happen. So I'm pumped.
You and me both, my brother. Hey, always a pleasure. And the next time we speak, a couple of weeks down the road, we got 2 Hawaiian tournaments to recap. We got a West Coast swing to preview. And I also want to throw down equipment for newbies in the game, because we're going to be closer and closer to the start of the season. And I got to believe that if you're looking to play a lot more golf this year, you're going to need new equipment. So we'll start talking a little bit about that as well.
Absolutely. I'm on board. I'm excited.
All right, Brian. Always a pleasure, sir.
You got you. Hey, congratulations to your Bills for getting the number 2 seed. Good luck to them this weekend. Hopefully them and the Browns get some traction.
It would be interesting if those two teams met each other up in the AFC title game, but I don't imagine. I got to be honest with you, Brian. I'm very concerned about this weekend's games, and I'm sure with the Browns not having any practice this week, they got to be concerned about playing on Sunday with no practice whatsoever this week, which I think is absurd that the NFL's going to allow it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, that's how much of 2020 was, and I know my wife's a huge Bills fan, and we've got a couple of their games. And I'll tell you what, I'm very impressed with Josh Allen. I really wanted him in Cleveland, and that was my pick, and all my friends know that. And obviously my wife gets to brag about him, and every primetime game he lights it up, and they're just fun to watch. I'll be quite honest with you. Of all the teams that I've watched this year, the Buffalo Bills are probably the most funnest to watch. Their fan base is just like the Cleveland Browns, fan base. Although they've been to a number of Super Bowls and they've had a little bit better history, more recent than the Browns back in the 50s and 60s. It's you kind of feel and you kind of want to get behind them, because they're a fun team to watch, and I'd like to see what the Browns do. They're just young, and I thought told me off the air a little bit before we started that even if the Browns got in the playoffs, I always thought that they would be out in the first round, but it would be a great year to really say, hey, we've turned the corner and now we're ready to compete. But I think the Bills are going to be here for a while. They've got a lot of good tools. I think their fan base is just like the Browns, that are just craving some success and something good to happen. So I'm excited for both, and we'll see where we go.
The triangle of regional teams, and I guess you could call Buffalo a regional team because they're only 3 hours from the Mahoning Valley. The triangle of regional NFL teams, and that would be Cleveland, across I-90 to Buffalo, down to Pittsburgh, and back over to Cleveland. These 3 teams are going to be really good at the same time, and it is going to be all kinds of fun to watch rivalries between these 3 teams.
And this region deserves it. I guarantee it deserves it.
Well, it deserves that and a whole lot more. Brian, always a pleasure, sir.
You got it. Have a great week, Brian.
You too, brother. Brian Tolnar from Mill Creek checking in as he will start to do more frequently as we're in golf season. I mean, it's cold as all get out here, and you're probably not going to want to play golf around here. But by God, they're playing golf on the island, and it's as Jimmy Buffett once famously said, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Well, it's golfing weather somewhere. And that's exactly why we have Brian Tolnar on. All right, we'll take a timeout. On the other end, we'll take some more phone calls and talk some more sports all the way up until 3 o'clock. It is a Friday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. That coming up in just a bit, more of this program.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbicfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
With Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Rain will come and go tomorrow. There'll be some dry intervals.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Rude gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy-efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Rude, and so should you.
Welcome back to a Friday edition of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. With you till 3 o'clock, at which time DJ and the boys will get you through the 3 o'clock hour with a Friday edition of Power Hour. All right, coming up today, about 3:50, we get some bowling. Oh, yeah, I get bowling on the network. God, I love when we do stuff like this. Bowling on the network. Struthers will be hosting Austintown Fitch. Speaking of Austintown Fitch, we got basketball on the network tonight. Some really interesting games. on the network. All of these games, by the way, are going to be starting at 7 o'clock, which means that your JV games will be at 5:30, and you know the drill. JV game goes quick, game starts before 7, varsity game. JV game goes long, varsity game starts a little after 7 o'clock. So somewhere in the vicinity of 7 o'clock, here are your Friday night games on this Basketball Friday in the Mahoning Valley. We got a damn good schedule tonight. This is good. Fitch will be hosting Cardinal Mooney. Beaver Local will be hosting Oakland. Now, we've been talking a little bit about, okay, that game's been canceled. I was going to say, we've been talking a little bit about Western PA, just getting into the swing of things. West Virginia is in the same boat, although this game has been canceled tonight, Beaver Local and Oakland. West Virginia just starting to get into the swing of things in terms of their high school athletics. So, I mean, there's another school, pretty large school, not an obscenely large school, but a pretty large school that some of the teams like the East Liverpools, the Beaver Locals, the Crestviews, the East Palestines, some of those schools could give Oakland a jingle once they're ready to go. Again, that game was supposed to play tonight. It's been canceled. This should be an entertaining game at Boardman tonight. The Boardman Spartans taking on the East High Golden Bears. Camel will be hosting Garrettsville Garfield. Keep in mind, the G-men are going to be joining the Mahoning Valley Athletic Conference gray tier next year. So next year, this will be a league game, Camel and Garrettsville Garfield. Right now it's a non-conference game, but next year it will be a league game. That'll be all kinds of fun to see the G-men in the MVAC gray tier. Canfield will be hosting Louisville tonight. That game's going to start at 7:30. So JV game starts at 6, varsity game somewhere in the neighborhood of 7:30. Back to 7 o'clock starts. Edison will be hosting East Liverpool. Hubbard hosting Struthers. Lakeview will welcome Girard. Niles hosting Poland. Sebring will be hosting McDonald. South Range hosting Jefferson. Springfield hosting Mineral Ridge. And United will be hosting Lisbon. So some good games on the network tonight. And we certainly hope that all of you will be taking advantage and watching one of these games. And obviously, we certainly thank all the fine sponsors for making this possible. And man, this good basketball, good basketball. And we've been talking ad nauseum about this. You know, you're into your first of 6 weeks for the girls before the tournament starts in mid-February. This is the first week of 7 weeks for the guys before their tournament starts around late February, I think the week of February the 22nd. So plenty of opportunities for the basketball teams in Trumbull County and Cheney and East in the city of Youngstown. Plenty of opportunities for those schools to get caught up to speed and ultimately get as many games as humanly possible when we get the tournament starting. And we've said this. I mean, get your league games in a perfect world. 18 games would be ideal. If you're not going to get the 22-game schedule, 18 games would be ideal. I think it'll be okay once the tournaments get going. And again, when the tournaments get going, my goodness, just like in the fall, when we saw the soccer and volleyball tournaments, you're going to have two districts combining into one large supersized district where you'll have two winners. You could very easily see two local teams winning two districts, which would mean we get a 50-50 chance at getting out of regionals and possibly getting a team into Columbus or Dayton if you're going to the girls' Final Four. All right, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, open for business. With you till 3 o'clock. We made mention the games that are going on tonight. We also made mention Youngstown State. They open up their Horizon League weekender with the Wright State team Wright State and YSU. This game is going to be broadcast nationally tonight. It's on the Deuce, and I understand, you can't get enough of the Ocho because, especially when dodgeball is on, you just can't get enough of the Ocho. But no, men's basketball game tonight at Wright State will be on ESPN2. The Penguins are 6-4 overall, 2-4 in the Horizon League. Wright State is 7-2 overall, 5-1 in the league. This game is tonight at 7 o'clock at the Nutter Center in Dayton. It is an empty facility, as all facilities are in the Horizon League through the month of January. So just the normal workers, the SIDs, the timers, the scoreboard operator, the officials and the PA announcer and the radio announcers and whatnot, and that'll be that. But this game will be televised nationally on ESPN2. Jared Calhoun saying this is a great opportunity. He spoke with the local media, quoting the head basketball coach of the Penguins. Our program has great respect for what they've been able to do in the league for a very long time, they being Wright State. They've got really good players, really good coach, really good culture, and a winning program, so we'll have to play really good basketball on both sides of the ball. The big guy for Wright State, it begins and ends with Loudon Love. He's the best player in this league, and the Penguins are going to have to play some really good defense on Loudon Love to have an opportunity to come out of there with a split, let alone a sweep. And I'm greedy. I'd love to see a sweep. I'll be happy with a split, but I'd love to see a sweep. We'll see what happens. Penguins taking on Wright State. Game one of the two-gamer. Both games will be at the Nutter Center in Dayton. Game one tonight at 7 o'clock. It'll be televised nationally on ESPN2. The YSU women will be hosting Oakland. The first of two games at Beagley. Again, no crowd. No crowd. And this is not a Youngstown State thing. This is a Horizon League decision. No crowd. Now, I understand people were wondering, well, why did we have a crowd on Monday and we can't have a crowd this weekend? Monday's game was a non-conference game. It had nothing to do with the Horizon League. I mean, obviously Youngstown State is in the Horizon League, but this was not a Horizon League game. Therefore, Youngstown State could put a couple of hundred people in the stands. But when you're playing Horizon League games, there are no fans in the stands, at least through the month of January. That is a league policy right now. The YSU women will try to notch their first victory of the season. 2 in a row against Oakland. Tip-off this afternoon at 5 p.m. Tomorrow, tip-off at 7 p.m. Youngstown State had their first 8 games postponed. They did not have any non-conference games. They went right into the heart of the Horizon League schedule. Unfortunately, they had to play against one of the better teams in the Horizon League this year in Wright State, and Wright State was able to beat the Penguins 2 straight times. They will take on an Oakland team that is 3-6 overall, 3-3 in the Horizon League. Now, the Penguins, they're 4 games down from everyone else. I don't know if the Penguins are going to be able to make up those games. Hopefully they will be able to. But right now, the Penguins are 0-2 in the Horizon League standings, the YSU women. My YSU men are 2-4. They have been able to play their Horizon League games. Unfortunately, the women have missed their first 4 Horizon League games. They started playing basketball last weekend at home against Wright State. They lost 2 times to Wright State. They will try to get a victory against Oakland, and that will be this afternoon at 5 o'clock and tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And Mary Dunn, by the way, 15 points per game, scored 15 a game in her first 2 games, hauled down 8 rebounds per game in her first 2 games. She had missed the last 15 months because of injuries. and expect her to have a pretty decent series. Oakland does not have anyone near the length of Mary Dunn. Mary's about 6'2", 6'3". Oakland does not have anyone near that size per se. So it could be a pretty good weekend for the YSU women. Oakland started out the season 3-2. They have lost their last 4 games, 3 of them in the league. They're 3-3. Penguins are 0-2. We'll see if the Penguins can double up and sweep Oakland. Again, the first game between the YSU women and Oakland is this afternoon at 5 o'clock. The second game will be tomorrow night, 7 o'clock tip-off from Beagley. And again, as per the policy for the Horizon League, there will be no fans allowed at Beagley. And this policy will continue through the month of January as, well, once again, COVID is continuing to rear its ugly head here in our country. And hopefully this becomes a thing of the past when we start getting into the spring sports and we start getting into baseball season and whatnot. And speaking of baseball, again, we made mention the Lindor trade, the Indians trading away Lindor and Carlos Carrasco to the New York Mets, getting 4 players in exchange. And Indians fans are pissed. They're not happy with management. They're not happy with the Dolan family. I think they're more upset with the Dolan family and their perception that they don't spend money, which one can argue about that. You can certainly make a case for the Dolan family in that they did spend money in 2016 and 2017 and 2018 and got no return on their investment because the fan base didn't want to show up. Now, I made mention earlier in the show that if you wanted to go down a very interesting rabbit hole, there is some interesting stuff on the horizon. The Indians lease with Progressive Field, Jacobs Field, whatever you want to call it. The lease with the stadium is up after the 2022 season. The television deal is also up at the end of the 2022 season. You can fill in the blanks there. Look, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I don't think the Indians are leaving anytime soon. Now, is it a possibility? Well, hell, the Browns left in the mid-'90s. Anything's possible. If the owner thinks that he can get a better deal and a lot more money in his pockets, and he can do it legally, and let's be honest, if the stadium deal is up at the end of the 2022 season and you can find a city to build him a stadium and give him hundreds of millions of dollars, then it's a business decision. Just like the Browns leaving Cleveland for Baltimore. It was a business decision. It sucked, but it was a business decision made by Art Modell. Now, you go back into that all kind of mess, and that was just ridiculous from the get-go. Ridiculous all the way around, and both sides were just as guilty of everything at the end of the day. But that's, ancient history. Again, in a couple of years down the road, if the Indians fans decide, well, we're not going to show up and watch a minor league team, we're sick and tired of the Indians trading away all their talent, well, this is what Major League Baseball has become, unfortunately. You have major markets and you have smaller markets, and the smaller market teams, by and large, are not spending money. And if you're not competing or you're not looking to contend and you're trying to rebuild your team, well, you're really not going to be spending any money. And right now, the Indians' payroll is around $30 million. It is what it is. It's not good. It's definitely not good. And as I mentioned yesterday, and I mentioned this today, short term, no, the Indians got nothing to help them short term, per se. Long term, long term, the Indians might have hosed the New York Mets. Long term. But again, the dreaded word in baseball is potential. And that's a word that a lot of scouts, a lot of farm directors, and some GMs trying to build or rebuild an organization, those people will use that word and use that word in the healthiest of manners. And there's nothing wrong with the word potential. The word does not exist in teams that are already contenders. Potential is an ugly word for contenders. Potential is an ugly word for championship caliber teams of any sport. That is an ugly word. That is a word that you do not want to hear when you have a championship caliber team, when you have a team that is contending. You do not want to hear that word. And you can use it all the way down, even into the high school level. You know, you have programs that are kicking ass and taking names in junior high, whether it be football or basketball. And you'll hear, you know, people say, well, potentially we got a really good program coming up here, potentially. And you know, most of the people that talk about that are teams that are not playoff contenders or have been slowed down and have had some hard times. You don't hear the word potential very often when you talk about teams that are at or near the top of the mountain. Now, you'll hear it a little bit in high school because, let's be honest, it's everyone is so young that you can't avoid the word potential. You just can't avoid that word. You can't avoid that word in terms of it's not a bad thing. You know, you can't avoid that word in high school. In college, now it's starting to get a little where the championship caliber teams in football, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the blue-blooded schools, I don't want to hear this word potential. Get this out of here. The only time I want to hear the word potential is when we're talking about our recruiting class coming in. After that, no. I don't want to hear about the word potential because we're championship caliber and we want nothing to do with potential. What we want are results. And in the pros, teams that are rebuilding, especially in Major League Baseball. And I know it's been a while for the Indians because, let's be honest, you know, they've averaged 90-some-odd wins from 2013 through 2019. They went to the World Series in 2016. They won divisional championships and went to the playoffs and, you know, didn't do very well in the playoffs, but they went to the postseason. You don't hear the word potential when you're a championship caliber or playoff caliber baseball team. You just don't hear that word. You don't want to hear that word. Unless you're talking about a really good player in your farm system. But even then, you don't want to hear about that word because everyone's too excited about the team that looks to be a championship caliber team. Well, now the Indians are taking a few steps back. Look, they're not going to win the division this year. They're not even going to finish in second place. They might finish in third because their pitching staff is better than Detroit and better than Kansas City. They might finish in third, but it'll be a distant third place. All right. This team has taken some steps back. The only credible threat, let me back up. Realistic, credible threat in the lineup right now, other than Jose Ramirez, Franmil Reyes. That's it, folks. There's your two guys. That is it. Roberto Perez, okay, yeah, all right. We'll throw him in. After that, that's about it. Mercado, is the rookie Mercado going to show up, or is the second-year Mercado going to show up? Bobby Bradley, don't know. Jake Bowers, don't know. Most of these other guys, don't know. You're not going to score many runs. You could catch lightning in a bottle and have a couple of these guys step up and step into a really, really good situation. Okay, maybe, but you're talking rolling of the dice and astronomical odds here. They've taken a couple of steps back. And management is going to talk about the potential in this deal. And there's nothing wrong with that. You've taken a couple of steps back. There's nothing wrong with that. You're not a World Series contender anymore. 2016 was a freaking lifetime ago. Where the Indians are now, 2016 was a lifetime ago. And this team is rebuilding. 2023, they might get back into it and do some damage. By 2023, hopefully. But potentially down the road, these 4 kids, they're not bad. Potentially, long term, they might have really robbed the New York Mets. Short term, no question. They didn't get enough. But the Indians weren't interested in short term. The Indians aren't interested in winning the division this year. Now, they're hoping, and look, nobody's going to admit to this. Come on, that would be suicide. Nobody's going to want to admit to this because all of the fans would be would have their picks and pitchforks and whatnot, and they'd want Dolan rode out of town on a rail. Not that they don't now. Nobody up there would admit to this, but they have no interest in winning this division this year. They're not going to. Now, having said that, they haven't done a complete overhaul because their pitching staff is still pretty good. Their pitching staff is actually pretty impressive. So they're hoping the offense and the players that haven't really stepped up and performed all that well outside of Ramirez and Franmil Reyes, they're hoping that these kids start stepping up. Because if they can, okay, now you have this really good pitching staff. 3 or 4 of these guys really step up and perform. Okay, now you might be able to open some eyes. And the rebuild, which wouldn't be a complete rebuild, they're just trying to retool and get back into it as quickly as possible. And that could happen. But the offense and the guys, the everyday players, would have to really perform. And to this point, I have yet to see Mercado look like a player that's going to be 20 home runs and 25 steals. I've yet to see any of these guys look like someone who is going to become the real deal. The only 2 guys on offense that I'm comfortable with right now is Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes. And to a degree, Roberto Perez. That's it. Those are the only 3 guys that I'm somewhat comfortable with offensively. Now, that doesn't mean that the other 6 guys can't get it done. It just means that they haven't shown that they can. We'll see what happens. But long term, I know I was down on this deal, and then I made some calls. Because let's be honest, the 2 kids that the Indians got, one of them was drafted 2 years ago this draft season, and the other one was drafted last year. And the kid that was drafted last year didn't even play a game in the minor leagues. The kid that was drafted in 2019 has 8 total innings of pro ball. But then I started making some calls, and I started talking with people that know a thing or two about these kids, and okay, I'm feeling a lot better. Now, obviously, it's one of those situations where you have to hope and pray that the organization got it right. And this is where you should be taking solace if you're an Indians fan. The Indians organization, whether you agree with this or not, it is obvious. The Indians organization has done a magnificent job of evaluating talent and getting the best out of the talent that they have cultivated. Whenever it comes to a deal involving minor league talent, I trust this organization. And while the Indians did not win this deal short term, they could very well rob the Mets blind long term. And that could be pretty interesting. assuming the Indians stay in Cleveland. Yes, I went down that rabbit hole. I couldn't resist. 330-886-0813. We're back in a bit. Stick around.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions, reminding you that it is open enrollment for Medicare.
Now through December 7th, those who qualify can visit our local independent agency by calling us at 330-953-3722 or visiting us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Attention all football fans. If you can't see your team play, come and dine with us and watch it live at Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland. Or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
2020 will be a season like we've never seen before, but 21 Sports and YSN will be there for every key moment. The plays, the players, and the stories that will headline this season. Delivered by 21 Sports and YSN.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
You may find yourself in some difficulty this winter. Don't get whacked by high heating bills. Call Michael at MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Michael is a trusted friend who will be able to help you with many things, like getting a 95% high-efficiency furnace this winter from Rude. Michael relies on Rude, so should you. Call MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning for a free estimate, 330-259-0486, and take care of your heating and air situation.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years.
I'm really happy that I went
To Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Baird Brothers remains your source for fine hardwood products. For the time being, we're open for customer pickup only on weekdays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday from 9 a.m. till noon. Place your order online at BairdBrothers.com. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
The 4M Company, being an architect and construction manager for over 40 years, has had the opportunity to use many different electrical businesses for our projects. The depth, quality, and knowledge and attention to detail displayed by Dickey Electric makes them stand out above all the rest.
For state-of-the-art expertise and a timeless commitment to our customers, contact Joe Dickey Electric. We are everything electrical.
Armstrong Local Programming has always delivered an exclusive and unique perspective on the very best events your region offers. High school sports, community events, parades, all your favorite shows from Armstrong are now calling the Neighborhood Channel their home.
Watch Out and About, Locally Speaking, and many other great local shows right here on the Armstrong Neighborhood Channel.
Find out everything that the Neighborhood Channel has to offer at ArmstrongNeighborhood.com. Spirit, town pride, local communities. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Right now is a great time to get more for your trade-in at Tri-State Ford and drive home in a new or pre-owned vehicle. Choose from our great selection of new Ford models or pre-owned vehicles. Plus, get the Tri-State Ford Advantage, including a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty and more. At Tri-State Ford, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade, but you don't have to purchase one of ours to sell us yours.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Welcome back to a Friday edition of Running Point, presented by... Hey, you stop that right now. Push the wrong button. It happens. Welcome back to a Friday edition of Running Point, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. I'm really looking forward to tonight on the network. If you were a fan of the Audible call, which was just an unbelievable experience, and I had an opportunity to sit in on Audible call a couple of times during the course of the football season. Controlled chaos would be a wonderful way to describe it, with everyone yelling Omaha 50 million different times. You're going to enjoy tonight. We preview, or I should say we roll out a brand new show, Open Look on YSN, presented by our incredibly wonderful sponsor, WRS Wealth Advisors, who, by the way, because of them, you're able to see all of the basketball games on the network for free, thanks to an unbelievable donation put forth by WRS Wealth Advisors. The head honcho to talk a little bit about Open Look. DJ, this can be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so this is something we wanted to do weeks ago, right? Whenever the season tipped off, then you have Trumbull County, you lose half of our schools on the wall here. And then we tried, there was a week there that we could have done it before Christmas. And then you go, okay, how do you build, an audience if you do it 1 week and then you're off for 2 weeks and then you come back? So we just decided, you know what? We talked to Tommy and the folks over at WRS. We said, listen, if we're going to do this, we got to do it right. So let's wait on teams to come back. Our goal is to continue to have 10-plus games each and every night on Friday nights. Naturally, it's a little bit difficult because you get scheduling changes at the last minute. Like we had Beaver Local that I was kind of – you were talking about it on the air, and I was kind of like, hey, they're out.
Yeah, they're out.
So I think we've got 12 as it stands right now. So exciting to see 12 more. I love the Audible call. I thought it was great. Nick and Act did a great job with that. Eric Oates will be in the gunner's chair, flipping from game to game. It's going to be a little bit slower paced, which I think is good for some of our audience, because we had so many people saying, listen, we love the Audible call, but it is like watching a TV with the channel pushed down, taped down.
Yeah.
Because it's just like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit slower paced because basketball, you're not necessarily looking for big scores. So we'll have timed look-ins, and hence the name Open Look, to each of our games tonight. And then the second half of these games, it's just wherever the good games are. And we're looking forward to having coaches come in and discuss the X's and O's. Ackelson, need I say more? Mike Ackleson's to me, he's the dean of sports broadcasters in the area. So, to have him leading the charge on this. And then Nick brings the quirkiness. He brings the straightforward, punch you in the nose kind of commentary that this area needs. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm excited to be part of it here in week 1 of the Open Look. So it starts at 6:50 tonight.
What is the over-under on the broadcasters from here on out using the word open look when somebody's wide open?
I hope a lot.
It's seriously. It is now going to be officially in my lexicon when I'm doing Rebels basketball. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And obviously we'd like to do more games. I think there's 4 other games that had potential, and you and I have talked. We've got some illness inside the confines here. And the other part is we have to battle with YSU a little bit, because we've got a lot of our guys that work like yourself for YSU and for YSN. So, we lose 4 or 5 guys just there. Richie Giuliano, unable to do Canfield tonight, so I'll be trying to fill those shoes, and those are big shoes to fill. So Canfield, I apologize in advance that the Wonder Boy will not be doing the game tonight. But yeah, it's fun. It's exciting. I'm just excited. People seem to be excited about it.
Let me tell you something about Richie. Last weekend we did the Wright State game, and I was thinking to myself, okay, I've never done a game with this kid before.
Yeah.
I have never really seen how he does, how he prepares, anything like that. So I'm just like, okay, I want to see what this young kid brings to the table. Oh dear God, is he a good broadcaster?
Yeah, he's the face of our franchise.
He's solid.
Yeah, he's
solid. There's no two ways about that.
You talked about those Indians that just came over in the trade. We were very fortunate to get Richie as a freshman at YSU. He's now a junior, and I will do whatever it takes to keep Richie Giuliano as the face of YSN, because he's that good.
He's good.
He's that good, and we've already talked about what his future looks like here, and I know what I'm up against. I know that there's going to be networks and some big people reaching out to Richie, and if we can't keep him forever, that's okay. We love him so much. We love all our broadcasters. I mean, it's so fun to see the growth in each of the sportscasters, whether it's their ambition to be one, in real life, quote unquote, or their lifelong dream, or whether it's just something they're doing on the side. I mean, I think everybody's bought into the YSN sportscasting, and we get more and more requests every day that people want to do it. So
yeah,
exciting stuff. But Richie's, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how am I going to compete with Richie Giuliano? Because I don't know many that can.
Yeah, he's good. There's no two ways about it. I told him, I said, you got a good future in this business. There's very few people that can that have that kind of ability.
What a great family he comes from too.
Yeah.
I mean, his dad's a legend. His grandfather's a legend. We always hear about people know Richie through his family, and great family. Out of Canfield. That he and Quinn are actually next door neighbors. So it's funny that we've ended up with both of them. But yeah, I mean, again, back to Open Look. This is something again we did in the fall with Audible Call that had never been done before at the amateur ranks. Across the country, across the world, and we're looking to break the internet again. We did it, one week we had 70,000 people tune into the Audible Call, and hopefully we'll do it again. It's going to be a little bit more challenging, because I feel like people with free basketball, they'll just watch their game, but I envision people watching the Open Look on their device or their TV, and then watching their own game on another device or another TV. So that way they can kind of know what's going on around the area, and you can, I'm going to try to push this into Mike's lexicon, is pass from game to game, bounce pass from game to game.
No look pass.
Yeah, no look pass. That's actually a good one. Yeah. And just going blind.
You just go blind and say, well, hey, what's going on in Leetonia? Here's your no look pass of the night.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I like that. I'll give you credit for that.
Okay, appreciate it. And get a sponsorship from somebody that cures a blindness. No look pass.
Well, those are for the officials.
Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's yeah. We'll let that one go.
Well, while we have a second, today is a very special day. Ella Golden, who's very near and dear to all of our hearts out in Crestview, the Golden family. You got Drake Golden, 1,000-point score for Crestview, probably going to break the all-time scoring mark for the Rebels boys basketball program. Knock on wood.
Yeah, he's got a shot.
It sounds like it could be in the next week or so. So it's one of those things where he's set. So we'll see how it goes. But all that being aside, great family. Some difficulties with Ella with a disease or an illness called Pandis. And if you don't know what Pandis is, I encourage you to look it up. It's very serious, and it's overlooked often by insurance companies. In fact, they don't even acknowledge it. So Ann Golden went to Columbus to talk and speak to our representatives about this. And today in Columbiana, at Columbiana Nutrition, they're doing a fundraiser for the Goldens, for Ella, for treatment. So you can go and get, this is a winterberry tea, and it just happens to be in YSN colors. So I highly recommend it. Do good by doing well. That's kind of our new slogan here. And if you're in the if you're in the area of Columbiana and you feel like donating, you could do that too. They're accepting donations. So just anybody that's out there, I greatly appreciate it. The Goldens are very close to my heart, and obviously being part of the Crestview family, we want to make sure that they're taken care of. A lot of stuff going to Crestview.
Yeah,
so,
good people.
So make sure you make your way out there, and I mean it's delicious, by the way. It's unbelievable. It's like they call it tea, but it's like a juice. It's pretty.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, look at that.
It little blue on top and a little red on the bottom. That's nothing wrong with that. That's good.
YSN.
Yeah, you got to mix that up. I got to a little.
Well, they said that you just leave it, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I'm with you. I kind of looked at it. I was like, well, are you guys going to stir that, or do I have to do that myself, or what?
It looks like it needs to be stirred, but I got to imagine it tastes really good.
It's delicious. Yeah. It's amazing. So kudos to another small business. In the world we live in now, small businesses need as much help as possible. So so head out to Columbiana Nutrition tonight until 7 o'clock is when they're doing the fundraiser. So if you feel so inclined to donate, you can reach out to us if you're not available to get there tonight, and we'll connect you with Ann and Joey or Drake, and we'll get Ella hopefully taken care of, because it's my dream, and I know it's the dream of her parents to because she's a hell of a basketball player.
Yes.
And a hell of a writer. So there might be something there as well. But it's my dream to announce her one day, to return to the court, because nobody would be more just – I wouldn't be able to announce, to be quite honest. I'd be full of tears, because what she's gone through, what the Goldens have gone through, support if you can. We'll just leave it there.
Yeah, so. It's been tough. It's been really tough, and hopefully – mind-boggling to me that insurance companies aren't doing anything more about this, but it's just we'll let that one go.
Yeah, it's difficult. As someone that has kids now, you can't imagine. To feel helpless. It's been told to me that it's like having someone else living in your kid's body. And it's depression. It's all of that stuff, all covered in one. So Pandas sucks. So if again. Thoughts and prayers, as always, go out to the Goldens, but if you got a chance to get out there and help them get some treatment for Ella, Columbiana Nutrition now until 7 o'clock tonight, or you can reach out to YSN, and we'll pin you up with the Goldens on how to donate. So,
and make sure tonight you watch the premiere, the first of many episodes of Open Look with our boys Mike and Nick. They'll. Yeah, it's kind of like Earl the Pearl and Clyde Frazier, these two. How they go off, and just the chemistry between these two is ridiculous.
Well, I'm excited because the coaches that we're bringing in, Razil is going to be one of them.
Yeah.
And Higgins, naturally, because they're already part of our network, so it's an easy reach. But some of these coaches, because not everybody plays on Fridays, so we might be able to get them to come in and sit in and get some real chalk talk, X's and O's, and that's what I'm excited for. Like, when coaches discuss X's and O's and you learn something from a broadcast, that's great. We call the action. I can't educate anybody on the game of basketball. Like, they'll spin me in circles.
Yeah.
But when you have a great program that you can educate people, and maybe they take it to the dinner table, and from the dinner table it goes to the basketball court, that's fantastic.
I love sitting in on basketball practices with a really good varsity or just a really good basketball coach in general, because we all since we work in sports, we all think, okay, we're pretty invested, we pretty much know a lot of stuff. Trust me when I tell you, if you are someone who thinks you know a lot about basketball, if you have the ability to go to a basketball practice and just see what guys are doing and the X's and O factors of it, oh my God. I learned more in the 1 year that I taught the kids in junior high, just from things that I picked up from my bosses the varsity basketball coach, and other folks. Just that stuff that you learn in 1 year. Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's a great sport.
Yeah, it's fun. It's one of those things that, it's kind of like the hybrid. You don't like the power of football necessarily. The finesse of basketball is right up your alley. But I got to say that doing so many Salem games this year, there's finesse, and then there's the EBC basketball, that brand. That is physical. Like, hard, like, double strap your chin straps. It's very, like, I'm not used to that. EOAC, TCL, ITCL, whatever you want to call it, the era that I grew up in, not used to. I mean, they're physical. I mean, it's almost borderline football / rugby.
Well, when they set picks, it's not just to put someone and screen them away from the shooter. No. When they set a pick in that league, their intention is the guy that's going to be running into me is going to hit the ground, and he's not going to feel very good when he tries to get up off the ground. Yeah. It's that physical.
Yeah, it's the closest thing we'll get to. You talk about Canton basketball all the time. That's the closest we're going to get to it is EBC, because they are pretty close.
They're bordering it.
So, but it's funny to see. We talk about sometimes with our language, how people have Pittsburghese or get that New York accent or a Cleveland accent. It's funny how that works with programs in sports, right? Because they're not necessarily like the Canton Souths, the Salems, the West Branch. They're not necessarily in a good position to compete with those big schools, right? But they're taking bits and pieces of that program, implementing it in their offense and defense, and bringing it against the schools that we're accustomed to here at Columbiana County, and we just sit there and go, what do you do with this?
Yeah.
It's a different brand of basketball.
It is.
And the officials call it a different way when you're in their building.
And one of the reasons why those teams don't always become very successful come tournament time is because it doesn't normally play very well tournament time.
Doesn't translate. No.
Doesn't translate because Canton has its own variety style of basketball that you do not see in Cleveland. A little bit. You don't see it in Akron. You don't see it in Youngstown. So that physical brand, it works if you have an official that lets people play that style of basketball. But if the officials don't let you play that style of basketball, now you're up the creek without a paddle, and you're screwed tournament season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a little bit more of it in the MVAC than I am. I mean, I've only seen a handful of games in the EOAC to this point because I'm the Palestine girls announcer, and they don't start until Monday. So when you look at it, MVAC it's pretty impressive.
It is.
I saw Jackson Milton last night, and Sebring's a program that's on the rise, but Jackson Milton just handed it to them, and the referees did a really good job, and I had the vantage point because I kind of saw it happening. The referees did a good job of making sure it wasn't a complete blowout. I mean, we saw a 74-2 blowout against JFK the other night from Rootstown. I have so many questions. I've always been a guy that says, okay, you get on the same floor I do, you better stop me or I better stop you. We talked about the Columbiana Palestine game a couple years ago. Like, stand up, pride up. But when you only have 2 points, there's something wrong.
Yep.
There's something wrong, and I just again, I don't think I'd ever beat anybody 100-0. Like, I'd at least let them score a few buckets, get into double digits, and I say that not because I want them to score, but there's a certain pride factor too that when it comes down to humility, like, you got to look that coach in the eye at the end of the game. You got to look that program. If that was your program, how would you feel about it? And some coaches might stand up and be like, hey, you should have beat me 76-2. And there's other coaches that say, what the hell's wrong with you? Like,
yeah.
Hey, what did I do? Did I hit your dog on the way in? Like, what? But, it's a crazy, crazy situation because everybody you talk to has got a different kind of calculus on what sportsmanship is anymore.
Sure. I would, in a situation like that, I would probably work on things that my team needs worked on before we become successful when the real season begins, which is tournament. So some of the stuff that, all right, let's run this particular offense that you guys suck at, and you're going to run this offense because we're going up against a team that isn't very good right now. And you don't necessarily have to shoot, but I want to see some ball movement. I want to see you guys run this particular offense. Granted, it's not going to be against a team that is really good, but I want you to do this, and let me see what you got.
It's not a team in your jersey. You know what I mean? That was the biggest thing. Springfield talked about it, this year, and there were some teams that couldn't stack up with Springfield in football.
Nope.
So they actually had better practices and competition at practice than they did on a Friday night or a Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's a good situation for a coach, but it's also a little bit of a bad situation because if you work your kids so hard and then on a Tuesday or a Friday, the team in the other jersey's not near as good as your B team, so to speak, you could be in trouble. We live in a soft society now, and people are looking for ways to point at you and say shame, shame, shame.
Yeah.
And it is what it is, right? You just grow accustomed to it. But
and my politically self doesn't really. I don't have any politically self stuff, so I'm just like, if you say something like that to me, I'm going to pretty much say what's on my mind. I have no political correctness whatsoever. So if someone says something outrageously stupid toward me, it's going to be coming back 10 times over, and you're not going to like it. But
you're political. You're just not correct.
There's political correctness. I have none. And I'm proud of it. I will never have political correctness.
You do. You do. You have tact when you want to.
When I want to, but it's the older I get, I don't want to anymore.
Well, because you're becoming crotchety.
I've become my father. Oh God, I can only imagine me at 70. Jesus.
What is that, like 2 years?
Oh, stop that! Come on now. Just because I look old doesn't mean I am.
All right.
Another 10 years. No, not even that.
Bills
15.
Bills play tomorrow.
Nervous.
I would be
nervous. Very nervous about this game. Especially Steph Diggs is not 100%. He's got an oblique injury, and those bad boys, they linger. That's not a good sign. Not a good sign.
Do you still stand by your we have to be AFC Championship game or bust?
Oh, absolutely. The injuries are. That's. Listen, you're 13-3. You finished 13-3 for a reason. I don't want to hear any talk about injuries. You lose a game against Indianapolis with or without Diggs, I'm going to be pissed. It's the season to me is going to be.
He'll be playing.
Okay, 13-3 is wonderful. You won the AFC East. That's wonderful. I haven't seen that in a month of Sundays. But if you don't win 2 playoff games and get to the AFC title game, I am going to be pissed because your team is good enough. I'll say it right now. This team is good enough to go to the Super Bowl, but a lot of stuff would have to go right for this team to go to the Super Bowl. A lot of stuff being, I don't know if they can beat Kansas City. In Kansas City, they would need to have someone else do their dirty work per se. But having said that, the only team that I'm really concerned with, I don't want to look ahead because this team hasn't won a playoff game in 25 years. So Indianapolis is the team that scares the bejeebers out of me now.
I'm with you.
And they're good.
Yep.
I get tired of people sitting back and saying, well, God, they're the 7th seed. No. They have an offensive line that is unbelievable. They got a running back that is unbelievable. They got a defense that is unbelievable.
I wouldn't say Jonathan Taylor's unbelievable.
He can be when this offensive line is blaring out holes. I mean,
you talk about that. I was going to ask you about this after the show, but I'll just go ahead and ask now since we got a couple minutes. This potential you always talk about.
Yes,
right.
It's an ugly word.
Ugly word, but you talk about it all the time. Well, everything you talk about the potential. Like yesterday. I didn't know if you were going to be okay. Like when that trade came through, I was honestly worried for you. And then today, you're completely like it's like the 7 stages of denial with you right now.
Here's the thing, and I didn't want to say much about it yesterday because you know me, I don't like saying anything until I get ducks in the row. And I didn't have an opportunity because this trade went on.
But you did.
We did.
But you did say.
Well, no, and you're right, because I felt I had to say something short term, but I really wasn't comfortable, and I shouldn't have probably said anything about long term because I didn't have enough people that I would speak to and enough stuff that I would read about some kids and just talk to people that know far more about this than I do. So after I get done, I'm like, oh, damn. this deal sucks. Short term, this deal's terrible. And then I thought to realize they have no interest in winning the division in 2021. This is, I mean, their pitching is, they didn't screw the pitching up because they realize they have top shelf pitching, and now all they need is 3 or 4 kids to step up to Ramirez and Reyes' ability, and now you're back on track, ready to go. Whether it happens or not remains to be seen. But then when I got home, I started rooting around different stuff. Picked up, because I always collect my prospect handbooks, picked this up, got the scoop on Andres Jimenez with people that I trust. Started making phone calls to people that I trust. And then I started getting word on the 4 kids, and I'm like, okay, Rosario's not a bad player. It's just a change of scenery he needed it.
You sound like a Pirate fan. That's exactly who you sound like.
Well,
because this is what we live through every trade.
Of course, and you're right. It's
so here's how trades, and this is why it's so crazy, because in this world that we live in, everybody wants instant gratification.
Of course,
right?
And baseball, you don't get that.
I think you'll get closer to it now because of the change in the minor league systems. Because not everybody's going to be sitting there waiting, because low A is going to be low A.
Oh yeah,
like low A.
Yeah,
like if you don't cut it, you're stacking.
You're pretty much gone. Yeah.
So my thing is Cleveland fans are so pissed right now because listen, Frankie was the heartbeat of that franchise.
Oh yeah,
he was the guy that filled the void. It's the same as when Kutch left, but. Kutch got traded, but it's you got to realize that they're losing. They say they're not losing money, but they're losing money.
No, they're losing. They lost their ass. Last
year. They'll start opening day with somewhere between $22 million and $35 million in a starting payroll. It's interesting because I think they're better suited for that. You know what I mean? I really do think so, because. Do I think that these 4 guys they just brought in are going to make any difference to the world? I don't. But I also think that the trade you had with San Diego.
Yes.
I mean, you got a haul. And sometimes you win them, and sometimes you lose.
That was the frustrating thing. They got more for Clevenger than they got for Lindor. Now,
yes.
I mean, you can look at this
potentially,
and you can look at this and go, "Good Lord, how does this happen?" Well, Lindor is going to be a free agent 1 year from now, and the Mets are going to sign him.
The Indians had no power. The Indians had
Indians had zero power. What they should have done was traded Lindor after the 2018 season and gotten the most bang for their buck, rip the Band-Aid off, and say, okay, well, instead of doing this in 2021, we're going to do this two years earlier, but we're still going to have the same unbelievable pitching that we have. It's just now we're going to be an even better team moving forward, depending on how much talent we get back from Lindor.
Well, I mean, listen, the timing of all this was
horrible,
awful.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Browns losing, getting to the playoffs like that. I said it on our show. I said, wait, this is going to go from being the drunkest timeline I've ever seen on my personal Facebook and Twitter account to the biggest hangover from 1 week to the next.
Yeah.
Because potentially, see what I did? You have the ability to have your team make the playoffs, and then you lose your starting left guard.
Yep.
Lose your coach.
Yep.
And you're out of the playoffs, potentially.
And you haven't practiced all week long.
Ohio State's could lose.
And they have COVID problems of their own.
Okay, so then Ohio State loses. Frankie Lindor's gone. Cookie Carrasco, which I don't think he was that great, but he was another one of those.
He was the most popular player on that franchise, not named Lindor.
But it wasn't for what he did on the field. It was for what he went through off the field.
You absolutely agree with that.
So the hearts of Cleveland people are not only shattered, but it's like the Dolans just spit on it and they're like, okay, we're done. Because then you look at it and it's $22 million. And I saw a stat, I don't understand it, but Bobby Bonilla is going to get paid more somehow than the Indians?
Bobby Bonilla Day, July 1st, every year to the year 2031. or 2032. God bless his agent for doing this.
Great.
Bobby Bonilla is going to get a check for over $1 million for the next.
1.1 or something like that.
Yeah, it's some. I had the exact number, and every July 1st, I always have the exact number. I can't find it right now, but
it's insane.
God bless his agent. It's just whoever decided to do this, and the New York Mets, the new ownership, Cohen, he's got to write a check out to this guy. Is he 50 some odd years old? He's 3 years older than me. He's bordering on 60 years of age, and you got to write this guy a check, and you got to write a guy a check until he turns 80 years of age.
Bobby Bo, baby.
We're crazy.
Good for him.
Woof.
I would say that Cleveland, Ohio, just Ohio fans in general, just hang on. It's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. Enjoy the last week you had. And I said it at the time, enjoy it, because this is potentially a really rough week for you.
This is going to be an interesting week.
With all the things that were happening at the Capitol the other day,
Oh.
and all the stuff that was going on with the Browns,
all
the
of this
Dolan
is-
just looked at it and went,
Yeah.
"No,
Yeah.
this is the only chance we get to be the undercut."
Yeah. It's just like, okay, let's do it now. The Friday dump. Let's just do it now. I mean,
Unbelievable. But that's timing, right?
What a week.
That's
What a
timing.
week. Good Lord.
All right.
You got a
power
minute.
hour.
You got a show to do.
It's power hour time.
All right. We're out of here. Talk to you Monday. And hopefully I won't have a scowl on my face. Good Lord. Go Bills. Hopefully I don't. All right.